hatutakubali. We cannot encourage a situation where we start discriminating against any part of our country. Lamu ni Kenya, Marsabit ni Kenya, Kisumu ni Kenya, Kericho ni Kenya.
Kindiki further warned politicians against calling for demos, saying that legal action will be taken against them.
It doesn't matter the political persuasion. Some people hide in political parties. They think because they're in a political party that is friendly to government, they can get away with criminal activities. Nobody will be spared. If you try the monkey business of dividing the people of Marsabit, the people of Kenya, we will come for you. Whether you are supporting the government or you are in the opposition. It really doesn't matter. Usa sera yako, jipendekeze kwa wananchi, bembeleza wananchi, wakikataa ngojea siku ingine. Wakikubali uendelee kuwatumikia. Lakini maneno ya uchochezi na ukabila tumekataa.
Thousands of junior secondary school teachers on contract who are on the just concluded strike have been sacked 2 days after they ended their go-slow. The Teachers Service Commission says the teachers failed to report to duty and engaged in professional misconduct. Last month, the TSC issued show-cause letters to over 7,000 teachers about the controversial internship program. However, the number of those said to be sacked is unknown. Kupet had agreed with the Commission on the withdrawal of all the show-cause letters which had been sent to the teachers. Days before Treasury CS Njuguna Ndungu reads the estimated budget for the year 2024-2025, some NCAs have asked MPs to amend some of the issues in the bill that have faced opposition from Kenyans during the public participation process. Speaking in Webuye West constituency, MCA for Olkarai Ward Peter Palanga said Kenyans shouldn't be forced to pay additional taxes as they're already suffering.
Hiyo finance bill iko na vipenge kadhaa ambazo zina uchumu na zinanyanyaza wananchi. Nataka kuchallenge tu viongozi wetu wasiende katika bunge na wasahau kazi ya wale watu ambao waliwatuma. Sasa hivi kila jambo limewekwa ushuru. Mfanyikazi wa kawaida anaumia. Ni jambo la kusikitisha kwamba viongozi wetu wala ambao tumewachagua, tumewaaminia uongozi kwamba wataenda kututetea, wameenda kupokea kile wanachopokea, hatujajua ni nini, lakini tunawahitaji kuwaona wakisimama kidete wakitetea sisi ambao ni wananchi wa kawaida.
Palanga has further asked President William Ruto not to ignore the cries of Kenyans who elected him so as to ensure they experienced better livelihoods.
Na rais, sikiza sauti ya watu wa kawaida. Wewe mwenyewe ni hustler, wewe ni mwenyewe ulipanda ngazi ukafika mahali ulipo kwa sababu ni hustler. Tunasema mheshimiwa, tafadhali sikiza sauti ya mtu wa kawaida. Sikiza sauti ya mnyonge, sikiza sauti ya mama mboka, sikiza sauti ya ule mama ambaye hajiwezi. Wana bodaboda hawa wanalia, hata mafuta kununua imekuwa ni shida. Tafadhali vile ulivyokuwa unaweka ahadi ukiingia katika uongozi, tunakusihi kumbuka ile ahadi uliweka, tembea na watu wako.
And the plane carrying Malawi's Vice President Chilima Salos and 9 others is still missing after failing to make a scheduled landing. The aircraft took off from the capital of Lilongwe around 9:15 a.m. local time and never arrived at Muzuzu International Airport, disappearing from radar, according to the officials. The trip was only scheduled to last about 45 minutes. In an address to the nation, Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera said the plane failed to land because of bad weather. He, however, said that the search had been narrowed to a specific zone.
But I want to assure you that I am sparing no available resource to find that plane. And I am holding on to every fiber of hope that we will find survivors.
That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ulbaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If a lion shows you its teeth, it doesn't mean it likes you.
It doesn't mean it likes you. It won't start. A liar calls as witness one who is either dead or far away. Say it in Kiswahili.
Ben low, nin inte, yenin der, ayu markati kadikta. You know this character called liar. He has disturbed people. So when you tell him, who are your witnesses, he will take you to a place where it is difficult to verify.
For someone like me who sweats a lot, I cannot survive there. Sweating is biblical. Good. And he must blame it on Adam, not me. Because Adam messed up and he was told, now you fellow you, by the sweat of your brow, thou shalt eat.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's good to be at the Situation Room.
Always a pleasure coming here. This is the most challenging interview panel in Kenya. You guys are very well informed, and as you can see, Charles today, very philosophical.
To be poor in this country is the greatest sin you can commit, not just from a legal perspective, but from life generally. It is very, very skewed.
We just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that Sisi ni ng'ombe is a baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you are willing to be milked dry.
You cannot force me to believe. I'll give way. If it's land that I'm told to return to you, I will. Okay? Because the court has said so. But I'll continue saying, watu wamenirusha. That's all that I'm doing.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyan.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
in
20 minutes.
What the big boys have also done.
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Or should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning, it's Tuesday, and it's a chilly morning. It's not going to stop anybody from being on the roads this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on, where you are. Real quick look at the Thika Superhighway, not much coming off of here. You'll get towards the tunnel at Pangani and then out towards the CBD. No problem. So folks are offloading vegetables and fruits there at Wakulima. That means that there's traffic on Haile Selassie. It's in and outbound. As everybody decides, the roads will be the market, so it's busy. Jogo Road also getting out towards Landis, not too bad. Trickle of traffic starting to form as you get onto Landis. And on Huru Highway, you'll see a bits and bobs of traffic. Langata Road is starting to pile up right around Wilson, in and outbound. Thing to watch today. Eastern Bypass looks good as it does on Outer Ring. Getting out towards the city, Kangunda Road is busy as you get towards Outer Ring, so it's one to watch as well. We're starting off Tuesday right. Let's see what happens as we get into it. We'll We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
12 minutes after 6. How are you doing? Welcome to Tuesday. Ndu, habari yako?
Fine, thank you.
Mambo iko vipi?
I'm tired, I beg.
Okay. Any other problem?
For now,
How long have you been feeling this?
And where exactly are you feeling it? Okay.
All over me. I've answered now.
Right. Is it a sharp pain?
No, it's a dull, consistent ache in my soul.
Really, huh? And how does this make you feel?
Tired.
Have you talked to anybody about this?
Nope.
I know someone.
You know somebody that does what?
That could listen.
Okay, who's that person?
He's a listener.
Does he or she have a name?
A silent listener to every conversation.
Invisible guest to every meal.
Who are you? Oh my God.
Did you have those things in your house?
Yes.
Jesus is the head of this house.
The devil has lost the battle.
Invisible. That thing was very...
Yes, it actually was quite cryptic, really. But in a simplified way, easy to understand. Meaning, akotu, atike ufikirie adiayuko.
Yeah, it was this here. Christ is the head of this house, the unseen guest at every meal, the silent listener at every conversation. You didn't have that hang on your wall?
Of course we did.
Definitely.
Would have wondered.
And then on the other side was the praying hands.
Yes.
The picture of the praying hands. Yeah.
And if you went a step further and determined that, rather your folks determined they were poetic, then there was the desiderata.
The what now?
The desiderata.
What are those?
You desiderata? Okay. Desi ni muhimu sana.
But what was the desiderata all about? It's a poem. It's poem.
Long. It's prose, really. It's more prose than poem. Yes. I'm trying to remember how it starts. But the bit that I always remember, avoid some noisy people. They are a vexation to the spirit.
I like that guy.
Avoid noisy people.
I'm paraphrasing. They are a vexation to the spirit.
Vexation. I like him. Desiderata. Oh, that guy. I also want to avoid noisy people.
No, Desiderata now is the name of that prose.
Oh.
The author is Max Ehrman.
Okay.
Scale. Max Yule.
Written in 1927. Wapi Desiderata yenyewe bana, sasa wewe Google bana unani waste bana wewe Google wewe.
Google ameleta games.
Google analeta mchezo hapa Google mwenyewe bana.
Acha kucheza na wewe bwana, hakujui huyo.
Bana. Bana. Haya, anyway, City wewe mwenyewe uko aje? Wewe binafsi?
Mimi niko mzima kabisa. Hii baridi baba ndio
It's crazy man. It's crazy.
Hii baridi. It is like it has announced itself. It has proclaimed itself loudly.
Do you know there's a name for people who like the cold, like myself?
Ndus. What are they called?
I'm gonna find it in a minute. It's like a.
And you say Ndus? It's your kubundus.
I found out there's a thing. Okay, see, in French you say if it's raining you say il pleut, la pluie is rain. So I think it's just a combination of all of this. Pluviocyte is somebody who enjoys or gets a good feelings of pleasure in the rain. Exactly. Then there's one for one who enjoys the cold weather. I'll find it in a minute.
And the one who enjoys heat.
Like yourself?
No, I actually like the cold. It's my body that has a problem with it.
Soleilocyte. The live stream is up. How are you, everybody? We are here, Mama. We are here. We are going to have many conversations. Let me tell you quickly, and then Ndu will tell us how the weather. The weather is going to look like in this very view site kind of weather. At 7 a.m. today, we are going to talk about the 2024-25 budget. Remember, Thursday is a budget day. Minister is going to tell us blah, 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 in Parliament, and then he'll go. Speaker, sir. And then he'll go home. Today, being Tuesday, we said that until the end of this month, we shall be doing Financial Tuesdays. CPA Robert Kamwara is the member of the ISPAC Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. What is ISPAC? The Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. He comes in at 7 a.m. so we can talk maneno mingi. Where Madam Ednah umekosea. Mercy Kimbalat is coming at 8 a.m., not 7. She's the CEO of the Association of Startups and SME Enablers of Kenya. We'll talk about how the finance bill proposals could cripple the startups. They presented their memoranda to the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly. And then at 9 o'clock, Treasury's tax projections unrealistic. A report by the Auditor General, Nancy Gathungo, says so. Dr. Jim McPhee is a senior lecturer at Strathmore University Business School. He is a man who's been in these streets for many, many years, understands very many things about finance and budgeting. He'll be joining us at 9 a.m. for that conversation. Yep. Sama yep. Bas, it's 18 minutes after 6. Tell us about the weather.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know that feeling where there's like a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to... But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before.
Some very nice, mature music.
It really took me back to my days, and I can just feel young again and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of SpiceFM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice FM. The weather with Spice
Cloudy
FM.
Conditions in Nairobi, it's 14 degrees, highs of 23 and lows of 12. We'll see lows of 13 in a partly cloudy Nakuru, going to highs of 24, and Nyeri will go to highs of 22 today and lows of 12. It's cloudy at 14 in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 12, and Mombasa is cloudy at 25 with highs of 30. Partly cloudy at 26 in Malindi with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 28 in a clear Kisumu at 18. It's cloudy at 16 in Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 15. Kampala is partly cloudy at 21 with highs of 27, and 30 will be the high in a mostly clear Dar es Salaam at 23. Looking into a clear Johannesburg at 4, we'll see highs of 16, while Mogadishu at 26 is sunny. We'll see highs of 31. Addis Ababa at 14 is sunny with highs of 22 and lows of 12. Lagos partly cloudy through Tuesday with highs of 30 and lows of 25, while Kinshasa at 21 is clear with highs of 31. We're looking into a sunny Beijing Tuesday afternoon, going to highs of 37 and lows of 22. Paris is cloudy at 7 with a chance of thunderstorms through today with highs of 18, and London at 9 degrees is partly cloudy with highs of 16. Around things off in New York, Monday night, clear at 19, coming into Tuesday, highs of 24 and lows of 15.
mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Salimia watu haraka haraka.
Peter Kiari amesema good morning, tuning from Pwani. Prayers for the Vice President of Malawi and everyone in the aircraft. Yes, we did see that news of that crash. Agri Momanyi says good morning, have a great Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, good people, says Richard Makiani. Hi, says Keisha Shawan. Well, good morning to you. She said exactly like that. That is not me. So George Gashoridi is tuning in this Tuesday. Looking forward to a great show. Asante Sana from Rochester, Minnesota. Tanoteka says good morning. Ricardo Marietta says good morning, kings and queens. Kitengela is where we are this morning. Everybody now Apenda Sana, says Carol. Another beautiful chilly morning indeed, says Isaac Cherotich, tuning from Nyeri this morning. Robert is in Mombasa. Good morning, Jeffrey says to everybody locked in from the president should give me the Nyali office. Kama Uhuru Ataki. Okay. So, Christine Wajiro says, good morning. Kiambu is where you are. Ifedigwa. There's actually somebody who lives in Ifedigwa. She'd like to wish us a lovely day ahead. Fenewa says, good morning. Tuned in from Ibincho in Kisi. Good morning, people from San Francisco, says John K. Felix Bosire is tuned in. Owen Bosire is also tuned in. They're not in the same place. One is in New York, the other one is in Eldoret. Oganyi Malala says, good morning. Praying for the people of Malawi. Oscar Mwanzi says, all the way from Chuka, a chilly morning to you. Meshak Jenga says, good morning. Canada, I'm Jumbo Spice family.
Chuka Jumbo.
Morning Fangano in the house. Jeremy Rono is tuned in this morning and says, Kip Ketem is here listening from Chepkenyon in Katikati in Baringo.
Where?
Okay. Joseph Makua is tuning from Marsabit. He says he did not see you over the weekend, CT. He's in Merile.
That's really unfortunate.
I know.
I passed by Merile.
There you go.
But I also didn't see him.
He didn't see you either. Jeremiah Wanjala says good morning. Samuel Bakora is here. Kithinji Gatobu is tuning from Nanyuki, a place I must go. Yamo says good morning. I trust you're well. Aisha Rashid is tuned in this morning and says good morning, good people. Dr. Venvik is in Mombasa. Robinson is in Hong Kong. Jimmy Wekesa says good morning. Joe Mungai says he's tuning from Kent. Kenyans, you're on your own. He says your MPs care less about we the people, but we will care more about their tummies. Let's pray ceaselessly. Mama J says good morning. Another day to worry about billionaires. Whoa, lolo. Not being given their vehicles of choice. I know. Wilfred Odhiambo wants to talk to Kabando Wakabando. Okay. Good morning from Liwen in Dubai, says Tito. Jones Kaleli is tuning from Majaoni in Bamburi. Simon Tozwa Ushuru says good morning. Tumeamka kukatwa ushuru. Oi. Who else appreciates Deputy President Wiki G taste of style? A white suit the other day. It was white and cream, but okay. Ellen Paul, good morning. To Kemoy says good morning. Makokwiri Dan, Ebuleteni Kanzeden, a lot needs to be said. Okay. Essay says good morning. Uhuru voted for him 3 times and probably more if they could. Okay, people did. Good morning, CT. The proverb should go to the village and... CT should go to the village and get real proverbs. Which village now, specifically? Tell us. Karanjan Jehia says good morning. Christine Wanjiro says is here. George Okoth is greeting everybody and says the rich also cry. There's a telenovela that was called The Rich Also Cry, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, Stella remembers that hanging. Says the Christ is the head of the house. Where did the mothers used to buy it? Okay, hello Eric. CT, Paul Esana Ndu. What happened? Jack Atambo says good morning. Ruben Ngaruia says good morning. Hey, everybody's in the house this morning.
Okay.
We see you guys. Karibuni.
City.
Yes.
Tuko Zambia.
Capital city ya Zambia. Yeye naitwa Lusaka. It also happens to be the biggest city. They have the form of government is what you refer to as a unitary presidential republic.
Right.
President, I've mentioned his name before, so people should know what his name is. Hakainde Hichilema. He has a vice president. He's called Mutale Nalumango. Okay? Right. A rich history, this country. It was even called Northwestern Rhodesia at some point, among other things.
Okay.
However, that is not what I'm going to talk about this morning. That I will talk about tomorrow.
Sawa.
Okay? Today, right now, I will tell you the proverb. If your luck deserts you, listen very carefully. It's important that you should understand. If your luck deserts you, even cold food burns.
Oh, yeah. Cold food
burns.
That's not even anywhere near a stove.
It will burn. That is a sign that your luck has done a fast one on you. Yes.
Siku ya nyani kufa.
Bwana.
Okay. Headlines.
On the front page of the Standard, Uhuru turns to God in Ruto money fight. Okay. Pay me my dues is what he says. Asking God to save us all. Former president says he has been forced to foot his own bills. Oh my gosh. Contrary to the law. He wonders why State House has not remitted money to his office, yet it is in the budget. He's gone on to say the lack of access to our rightful budget allocation has forced retired President Kenyatta to run the office from his pocket, paying for all the bills the office incurs, and that is Ednah, who is his spokesperson. Okay, we'll look into that story a little bit more. Secondary schools to lose 20 billion shillings thanks to CBC. Okay, this story confuses me. Okay, we'll look into that, but lose what they never had in the first place, all because, capitation, etc., etc.
One less class.
One must ask, yeah, one less class. The money wasn't going to go there anyway. So the French are voting. Snap polls are taking place in France. Macron is, what they're saying is, Macron big gamble on snap polls to see where his popularity lies. Focus now on flood effects in mini budget. Okay. Reject punitive taxes, hustlers plead with members of parliament on the final day of submissions and public hearings characterized by heckling and criticism. Kenyans asked the Committee on Finance to have the parliament amend what they feel would make their lives worse off. So public participation came to an end yesterday. And it will be very interesting to see if the views of Kenyans are taken into consideration. On the front page of The Nation, where is Uhuru's 1.1 billion shillings funding? Kenyans could ask the same. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday demanded to know the whereabouts of funds allocated to his office in the past 2 financial years, even as he accused State House of frustrating him and his family from accessing their constitutionally sanctioned benefits in ongoing feud with his successor. Letter to Pesa, that's the thing. JSS tutor sacked 2 days after calling off the strike. This is the proverb. As in, when luck has left you, even cold food burns. You even said you're going back to work. You went back to work after going on strike because you're not getting paid or hired. Then they sack you. How much worse can it get?
Imagine.
Jeez Louise. Party, war of words, then cruel death. Sad story of teenager Beth Wamboi. This is a sad story and it is a tragedy. We'll look at that later. The courts are saying Kamata Fridays. It's still something we're going to look at as the court throws out a petition by lawyers' lobby. The High Court has dismissed a petition seeking to block the police from arresting suspects on Fridays and keeping them in custody over the weekend. Okay. Inside ADC's 500 shilling per acre land lease scam. Where are they buying this land for 500, Bob?
Where?
The Agricultural Development Corporation leased land to an unnamed investor at more than 10 times below market rate, or 500 shillings an acre per year. Underlining the blatant abuse of government property in dealing with business people. See, this whole thing is just one scam. Everything. Look at it. Is it moving? It's a scam. Eish. I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
Let me tell you what's in the Business Daily. It's not a scam.
Okay.
It's not a scam. Pending bills nightmare as state allocates zero budget. The businesses holding out for payments from the government for working capital are set for tougher times after the National Treasury did not allocate funds for the payment of pending bills, running into hundreds of billions of shillings in the latest supplementary budget, despite earlier promises to do so. Private sector players had pegged their hopes on the supplementary budget too for the partial settlement of their dues, following comments by the Treasury PS Chris Kiptoo earlier this year that the government would begin to pay claims once they were verified by a special committee that President Ruto created in June last year. So hii mwaka imeenda imepita. Pending bills, we're getting to the next financial year. Tuko pamoja? Sijui kama tunaelewana.
Committee wako wapi?
Eh?
Hawajamaliza?
Nani?
Your committee ya verify pending bills.
Walianza kidogo, they are still doing.
It's an ongoing process.
They were supposed to present their preliminary report in June and all. And remember, they came up with some report that said they verified a couple of worth 100 and something million shillings, right?
Only.
So Kipto had said, so now we're going to put it in a supplementary budget so that then we can pay.
That 100 and something million?
Yeah.
From something billion?
Oh,
my daddy.
It was 100 and something. Or was it billion? I don't remember.
It has to be billion.
But it better be billion because...
Yeah.
Million.
Something like something. Now, supplementary budget came, it went through parliament, it has been signed into law. Pesa imetoka, pesa imeenda, hiyo mambo yote tumalizane nayo. Okay?
Done, dusted.
Yeah. It has not, so they wait for the next financial year. Now go and petition parliament right now. Auditor flags ADC's puzzling 500 shillings per acre land leases.
Voila.
See, it's nice.
I'm telling you.
PSV is to raise fares if new car taxes pass. Kenyans relying on PSVs could soon be hit with a steep increase in prices for daily commute if the proposed amendment to the Income Tax Act introducing motor vehicle tax is adopted as envisioned in the finance bill. That's what operators are saying. Kenyan CEOs to fire 370,000 staff in 2024.
375,000.
370,000. More CEOs plan to trim their workforce this year, according to a new survey by the CBK. Safaricom rollover charges breach Hustler Fund rules. Safaricom overcharged Hustler Fund borrowers to the tune of 368 million shillings in the 7 months to June 2023, contravening the law governing the fund.
What did I tell you? If it's moving, it's a what? It's a what?
Retired civil servants suffer 2.1 billion shilling bond paper losses. A pension fund for civil servants suffered a 2.1 billion shilling hit in paper losses in 2 years on investment in securities. Simbaya sana, by the way. You can get what? City?
Cold food can burn.
What's on the thing?
Today is that day when inside the paper you have the MyGov. So this particular edition is furry. It's heavy.
Imejaa tenders.
Right.
It's a 500 bob per acre.
This thing, don't joke with this. Hey man, there are many. Why?
Hizo ni majina ya nani? Recruits. There's a whole list there. What are those?
It's not just one
What's
list.
that? It's
land rate defaulters.
By Kanjo. It's owned by Kanjo by
County.
City County of Nairobi.
Yes, wow. Hey, mazizi page ni nyingi. Aye, it's like the whole paper.
Situlisikia, sasa lazima watuandike kwa gazeti kila siku.
Ushaona jina lako? Ni nini tena?
No. The good thing is that at least they're consistent. They haven't changed.
Okay.
We are just where we were before.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Now, how, not now, rebellion trapped man in double lifestyle. This one I'm going to have to read so that you understand.
How rebellion trapped man in double?
Yes. As a parent, when you restrain and discipline your child, you want the best for them. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Wanting to guide them to stay on the straight and narrow path. But it may produce a different outcome. Some parents use the rod to restrain him from exploring during his teenage years. But well-intended action drove him right into the arms of boys, a habit that morphed into a lifestyle.
Okay.
Sexual harassment. Goodness. Woman changemaker wins award in America. Okay.
In the sexual harassment case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No more taxes. Wanjiko's wish for 2024-2025 budget. Bang in the middle of the paper. Hot potato, otherwise known as hot potato. No one wants to comment and take sides publicly, fearing reprisal. All right, tell us what it is that you're saying. This is what they're saying. Ruto, Gachagua, Rao allies in big dilemma. Dilemma is, should I not? Most believed to side with president, but insiders say Gachagua backers favored by voters. Okay? There's a picture here of El Presidente, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, and President Ruto before the president departed for Seoul, Republic of Korea, on June the 3rd. They're sitting on some fancy-looking chairs, looking relaxed, seem to be having a chat, I can lip read. Okay.
Oh, you can lip read.
Yes, I can lip read. Yes. Sasa mimi naenda.
Maneno.
Sasa nimekuachia. Sikia. Kinuchunge nani? Sasa zingine naleta shida. Lakini sikai sana, tarudi karibuni. Sawa. Sawa. Na hii kelele mingi hata usijali.
Kenya ni mingi.
I think the other conversation was ninaenda. Nisisikie umetumia ndege yangu. Ama gari yangu. Kama unataka kwenda kutangatanga, ujilipie fare. Ya twist, hatuna pesa ya kuwest.
Na State House ujue unakuja kama niko,
kama siko usiende State House. Usikalie kiti yangu. Tell us about traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so where are we this morning? We've seen a buildup of traffic begin on the Thika Superhighway. Likely not to get really crazy until later. Coming off of Ngong Road, we'll see some movement through into the city. People are buzzing, getting in and out of the city without too much of an issue. That Wakulima issue seems to be sorted out now, more or less. Fewer vehicles there. Kangunda Road said, it can never be me. Traffic I must deliver every morning. And here it is, delivering proper, getting towards Outer Ring. And it's bumper to bumper as you get to that junction. Also coming from Garden City on the Thika Superhighway, there's traffic coming in. Actually, beyond that, coming in from Clay City out towards Allsop State, traffic has built up quite some. The service lanes are not looking too bad. You can use those to get where you're going. Gong Road is going to be busy for most parts of the morning. We can already see traffic connecting from Naivasha Road, touching on Gong Road, and then heading out into the CBD. On the Eastern Bypass, not too bad, but we're seeing a build-up, and it's probably going to get a bit stickier as we go along. Tell us what's going on where you are. If you find a good route, talk to us this morning. If you're jammed up somewhere, talk to us there as well, and we can provide an alternative. We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so, okay, we all know, 1.1 billion shillings has not been given to Uhuru Kenyatta, and through his spokesperson, Ednah, yesterday asking questions, Omo, where's my money? So it'd be interesting to see what the answer will be. So it's constitutionally...
They responded, these guys.
What did they say?
Sijui the cars are in State House. Sijui they're getting fueled.
Okay.
Sijui, no, he has his cars. Yeah, no, these two people, no, they are not part of his staff.
So have they received the money or not?
The cars are there.
But the car is not the only problem. Cars are not with Uhuru.
They have the money for three houses. He's getting
response.
He's getting it soon.
That one is getting
education capitation.
Office now is where our issue is. This guy does not want to go to use. There's an office of the former president, which the government bought with its own money.
Use that one. You want to use your own.
This guy wants to use a different office.
Okay.
And you see, the state cannot enter into such issues.
Okay.
That's what the government spokesman is saying.
Okay.
It is just bad manners in my... It's completely... It's
ridiculous. Let's be honest. It's some child's play here that you're making us all audience to, and it needn't be. If you guys want to have a pissing contest about what, can you do that away from our attention? Just figure out your things.
This should not even
should not
happen.
Come out here.
It is the law.
It's the law. Give him what's due to him. Let's keep it moving.
This Maneno started. Uhuru himself. So Kibaki did not complain. We don't know whether Kibaki just chose not to complain or Kibaki received everything. Okay? But during Uhuru's time, we had Raila and Kalonzo are not getting...
Yes, we did.
Because they're still active in politics.
We heard all that.
Right. During Uhuru's time, Ruto has now told us that during Uhuru's time, in some months, money for his office was not nini. He was using his own fuel to travel around. He was paying his own guards.
Yeah.
So money allocated by Parliament was not getting disbursed for functions of the office of the Deputy President. Ruto himself has said that Uhuru did that. Now, Ruto, who is the better man, same thing is happening. Uhuru now is coming to complain. This is absolute nonsense.
It's crap. But you know the thing is, it's used as a tool. It's a tool, if you haven't seen it. It's a tool for you to lord your power over somebody else.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But is it
and
working?
we're all in the gallery and we're watching. Whereas there are some things that are happening in this country where you wonder, okay, come on, guys. Surely, can we not do better?
But there's a pattern, isn't it?
There is a huge pattern here.
There is a pattern. When we talk about capitation, our favorite topic, what do you think we're talking about? Obligations that the government has and which they refuse to meet.
And it's just by law.
Willy-nilly, just like
You
that.
just decide I'm not going to do it because.
Precisely.
I'm just not going to.
Or I'm going to say that I'm going to do it, but I do not
I just
do
don't
it.
do it. And I say, soon. It's never. It's never.
You see, Uhuru shouldn't complain too much.
He did the same thing.
He did exactly the same thing. Exactly. So the what goes around comes around thing. It's really come around.
No, I think Uhuru should complain. Okay? So that then we pick it up as Kenyans and say, we do not want this nonsense. What's in the law is in the law. If there's a discussion about lowering the amount allocated to a certain office, let that happen. Let Parliament reduce the amount. But as long as it has been earmarked and the money is there, pay it.
Send it.
This should not. We will. So now very soon we'll have 2 retired presidents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And we'll be discussing about who is getting more than the other.
Yes.
Because of who has now become
Yes.
the
Can you
6th
imagine?
president.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
This is absolute nonsense.
I couldn't agree with you more.
It's rubbish.
The wear of the shoe. You see, you set something in motion, then it's coming back to bite you.
Yeah.
And you wonder why it's biting you, and you're the one who set it in motion. Really?
Come on, man. This is all happening when there's a very sad story of a girl called Beth Wamboy. Can I tell you that story?
Tell us.
Yes.
Now, on April 7th, it was just 2 months ago, Beth Wamboy, then 2 weeks shy of 18 years old, left home in the evening after lying to her mother that she was visiting a friend in nearby Kenol Town in Murang'a County. All right? It later emerged that she had gone to a bar where her peers were throwing a birthday party for one of them, which turned deadly.
Oh dear.
According to an ongoing investigation into her murder, things went wrong at the party and she was abducted, stabbed several times, and had acid poured on her body. Hospitalized for over a month at a private facility in Kenol Town, her medical bills rose to 2.2 million shillings, of which President William Ruto donated 1.5 million through Murang'a woman rep Betty Minor. At Wamboy's burial in Karogia village in Kandara constituency on the 7th of June, which was when?
Last week.
On the 7th of June, which was on Friday.
Is it this week?
Friday.
Yeah, last week. This
Friday.
7th of June this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah? Miss Minor read out the head of state's condolence message. It is with a heavy heart that I send my condolences on the passing of Beth. She fought her injuries with a brave heart and underwent 5 corrective surgeries, and we were prepared to foot the bills if that was what it took to see her live. But God took her home. It is a sad story that should not go unnoticed because of the cruelty with which it happened. Our judiciary must be seen, heard, and felt to work swiftly for her justice, as it is clear that it was a case of sexual and gender-based violence that must not go unpunished. This was his message. According to a preliminary report sent to Murang'a County Security Committee Chairman Joshua Nkanatha, the girl is said to have visited 2 bars on the fateful day, Club Michigan and Club 126, both in Kenol Town. According to the witnesses listed on the preliminary investigation report, the girl was first seen at Michigan attending the birthday bash of one of her friends. She later left the bar in the company of several friends, both male and female, and went to 126 to indulge in what her age mates described as party after party. The report adds she was seen arguing with some friends, but at 10 p.m. they all left on 3 motorbikes. She was found fighting for her life by passers-by 2 hours later, 2 kilometers from the party zone, dumped near the Kapati police station. Police from the station were informed of the incident and arrived and took her to a nearby public hospital. But due to the ongoing strike by health workers at that time, she was transferred to a private hospital in critical condition. It was recorded at 40 minutes past midnight at the station. She had visible injuries, of course, around her face, chest, abdomen, thighs, and legs. Her right ear and both breasts were severed. Preliminary investigations deduced that the burns were a result of acid.
What on earth is happening in this country?
What is going on? Just 2 hours later, she was going with her friends to enjoy the party, whatever, and her body comes back is found on the side of the road in this state. The girl's parents, Peter Kire and Esther Nyeri, are demanding justice. My daughter had told the police that 5 people were responsible for her attack. So she was semi-conscious, of course. The police had earlier arrested 3 of them but released them under unclear circumstances. Murang'a Police Commander Maviu Kainga said, "We are taking this case with all seriousness it deserves, and it is a matter of time before we crack it." MP Betsy Minor said, "We are not looking for fairy tales from the police, as I have since informed the president that no suspect has been arrested. I have also informed Home Affairs CS Kithure Kindiki that his officers must get the real culprits, and this family must get justice."
Police are saying that they are pursuing the possibility of some of her female friends fighting over a boyfriend, a drug-induced vicious attack, as well as possible revenge from other families who allegedly accused one of her close family members of defiling neighboring girls. This is just...
My God.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
The manner in which the injury she sustained was horrible.
Yeah.
She was stabbed. So where people walk around with knives, huh?
In bars. Kids. She was amongst her peers. 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. She was not even 18 yet.
Kids. The local DCC closed down those 2 clubs because they're saying you allowed minors to get into your club. Hey, this is a sad story, man. This is a very sad story. But there's a lot that this story is basically... there are many things that could have happened. By the time all these things are happening, this is a very, very clearly premeditated.
Sure.
Acid is not something you just go and scoop from a river.
You don't walk around with a bottle in your bag. No.
So, and it has happened. So all of you have left, and then within 2 hours, here you are, and this is how you look like, and you've been dumped near a police station. This was a clearly premeditated action, and the motive of it would be, my goodness. Anyway, let me take you to other parts of the country. In Rumuruti, Laikipia County, specifically. Are we together? The Agricultural Development Corporation leased land to an unnamed investor at more than 10 times below market rate, 500 shillings an acre per year, underlining the blatant abuse of government property in dealings with business people. The corporation leased 15,000 acres in Rumuruti, Laikipia County to an unnamed tenant in 2015 for 15 years in a deal that will cost taxpayers more than 1 billion shillings over the period. This is according to Auditor General Nancy Kadongo. The lease was effective from 1st of October 2015 at a lease rent of 500 shillings per acre per annum. The cost of leasing an acre of land for farming ranges from between 6,000 and 10,000 in most parts of the country. The audit shows that after 5 years of leasing out the 15,000 acres, the size was reduced to 13,103 acres in October 2019. This means ADC will have earned 103 million shillings from leasing the land when the tenure of the deal ends in 2030. At 6,000 an acre, the corporation would have earned 1.24 billion shillings, while it would have made 2 billion at 10,000 per acre annually. Hey, guy. In correspondence dated 27 February 2017, the surveyors had indicated that 1,897 acres had been lost due to illegal grazers invading the said piece of land. In addition, no further correspondence has been seen to explain what has since transpired with that 1,897 acres that are no longer in the custody of the tenants. Most government institutions with real estate holdings resort to leasing them in a bid to generate cash and ease liquidity challenges. Yeah? Sasa here is a huge piece of land in Rumuruti. A resident of Changolo village in Aduard, Kilifi County, looks out of a pineapple plantation on a piece of land also claimed by ADC. ADC has very, very many pieces of land across the country. Okay? Mm-hmm. And this issue of some land in around Laikipia that belongs to ADC that has been taken over by some unknown senior politician, was in the news some years back.
Right.
When we had all these clashes around here. There are people who were also talking about ADC land that has been taken up by somebody. Okay?
Yep.
Now that somebody, I don't know whether it's the same somebody or another different somebody, is paying 500 bob an acre for a year to lease the land. After all, hii shamba si kama hii 500 ulikuwa nayo? Haukuwa nayo, si ndio? Ndio hii chukua.
500 shillings?
Yeah.
An acre?
An acre.
Right.
And you've taken 15,000 acres.
Hey, God in heaven.
By the time he hands it back, we need to audit that land. Because you may find he's not returning 15,000 acres.
Already here in the Beetle Gashakasha, in this Gashakasha, 1,897 acres, Sijui has been invaded, Sijui has been done what? Sijui has been lost due to illegal traders invading this land.
The games have begun.
Story.
The games have begun. Someone has seen an opportunity to actually get land, government land, and then the story will morph, and before you know it,
it will die. This land is gone unless we do something.
15,000 acres is what they're talking about. They say you're going to give it back. You've enjoyed the benefits of, in fact, that 500 shillings that you talk about per acre per year, it comes to 7.5 million in a year. Who received the money?
ADC.
So they say. Is ADC thinking that they're going to get the land back? How many years did they lease it for?
What I'm wondering is, are you saying that ADC doesn't know what to do with that land?
Come on, for crying out loud.
That's what we're saying?
ADC has thousands of acres across the country.
They do.
What was the purpose of establishing ADC? What is the agricultural...
No.
It's called what? Agricultural Development Corporation.
Yes, that's what it was called.
Right? The whole idea of ADC was large plantation farming.
Essentially, that was the place you went to see how things are done. Okay? If you found an ADC farm, for instance, in the Laikipia area, it was rangeland. You would find they have cattle. You would find they have best practices. So if you were in the business of keeping cattle, that is where you went to be able to understand how these things ought to get done. Okay? And that's why they had it all over the country. But ADC land has been fair game for people in government for the longest time.
For a very long time.
Yes. One, it starts off as ADC land. The next time you know it, it's somebody else's land. And they even have a title to it. But it was ADC land. You know, some of these things that people set in motion, the consequences are usually really, really very bizarre and dire. Yes. Because it didn't start with this government. It didn't start with the previous government. It didn't start with the government before that. This thing started in the Kenyatta government.
Yeah.
I mean Kenyatta 1.
Ukora na wizi. Tell us that story that you wanted to read for us in the Star.
I did want to read you this story. There's a lady. She's called Jane Anyango. She started bringing women together to fight for issues that affect them. She started getting a few women to form a chama, which later became a registered self-help group, then a CBO, and much later an NGO. Her long journey culminated in getting a prestigious award late last month in Washington, D.C., USA. She was given the award by Vital Voices which are vital. All right? Besides the award, Anyango, a mother of 4, said she got a chance to have lunch with Hillary as in Hillary Clinton. Okay. And other women change makers. Vital Voices was founded in 1997. It supports activists and women with bold vision to solve world challenges. It has directly supported more than 20,000 women, change makers in 185 countries, and built a global network of women leaders who are daring to reimagine a more equitable world for all. Anyango was awarded for her effort in advocating against sexual harassment in public spaces in Kibra. The award organization monitored her efforts through Safe City, a mobile app and platform that crowdsources personal stories of sexual harassment and abuse in public spaces. Through the initiative, they installed safe boxes in schools, school toilets in slums to allow the girls write their experiences and seek help. During the 2007-2008 post-election violence, Anyango told the Star she was living in Kibra with her family when a young girl was killed during the chaos. It ignited her passion to address the challenges. It is good when people are recognized.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That's the US story, right? There was another story.
Yes.
On the front page, just look at it.
Yes, there was another story. How rebellion trapped man in double lifestyle.
That one.
Story is on page 2. SM works as a counselor, says his wife doesn't know he's bisexual. The gentleman in this story, because of the preamble that I mentioned earlier, is a bisexual. Okay? This was in the 80s when dialogue with children was extremely rare. After some time, SM, that's the name that we've given this Kenyan, had enough of the rough and tough love. He decided to satisfy his sexual curiosity with fellow boys as a way of spitting his parents. I think it's spitting
Spiting.
Spitting.
Let's go with spiting.
Spiting his parents.
Yeah.
Okay. Decades down the line, this 47-year-old father of 2 teenagers told the Star his rebellious actions saw him become gay and later settled to a secretive life as a bisexual. I did it as a way of spiting my parents. They were too tough and did not allow me the space to explore my adolescence and stopped me from getting close to girls, switching to keeping boys around me.
So he was rebelling against his parents.
Yes, the parents warned him against
so kind of boys.
But
So
he used to
hanging out with boys.
He was just hanging out with boys all the time. And in the process of hanging out, decided to experiment.
Okay.
So he grew older and he hung out with the boys and he did more than hang out. But then he figured out, he also wants children. Got married. So he is bisexual.
So he's now living the double life.
He's now living the double life. Sorry.
That was not a faux pas.
Sorry.
City. Oh, wow.
Well
done. Good job.
As we go to the 1 minute.
1 minute.
JSS?
Okay, so it's a bit sticky. JSS tutors have been sacked 2 days after calling off strike. Thousands of junior school teachers on contract have been sent home 2 days after calling off their strike. The letters issued by the TSC cite professional misconduct for as the reason for the termination of their contracts.
Right.
So they said, we're calling off the strike to give you guys to figure out your thing. They said, okay, welcome back. Now go home.
Shikabarua. Home.
Thanks. That thing that you did when you were striking and embarrassing us all over the nation.
Professional misconduct.
Yeah.
Guy.
Last month, the TSC had issued show cause letters of 7,357 teachers. The number of the sacked teachers was not immediately established. The letters were dated June 6, 2024, but were dispersed to head teachers yesterday. So they had apparently done the letters before they called off the strike. So, yeah. One of the letters reads, reference is made to the show cause letter in which you were accorded an opportunity to explain the reasons why your engagement as an intern should not be terminated on account of professional misconduct. The commission has carefully considered your response and found the same to be unsatisfactory. I figure that it doesn't matter what they said, it wasn't going to be satisfactory because they'd already made the decision to do what? Give them the axe. Another one says the commission has noted that you failed and or ignored to provide any reasons for your absence from duty as required. Vide the aforementioned letter. In view of the above, the commission has decided to terminate your internship with effect from June 6, 2024. Doesn't matter what you say, you're out.
So it's action following the show cause.
Of course.
And
the show cause was you were not at work. Why? You were on the road striking.
What? Okay, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The national government has fired back at former President Uhuru Kenyatta, refuting several accounts that the ex-president had given on the financing of his office, alleged intimidation of his staff, and claims of the Kenya Kwanza administration employing underhand tactics to deny his office its budget. Government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura refuted the claims, insisting that Uhuru continues to enjoy his benefits as a retired president that he is entitled to. Uhuru's spokesperson Ednah said his office has not been getting funding as required by law to continue its activities.
The late President Daniel Arap Moi and the late President Mwai Kibaki were allocated and maintained more than double the number of vehicles that have been allocated to the third retired president to ensure optimum running of his office. There were fuel cards that were issued, and the fuel cards were given, as well as the maintenance of the vehicles, but that has not been done because the cards were blocked in the month of March 2023 to date, that is. I'll take that again. The fuel cards were given, however, they were cancelled and blocked by State House since March 2023.
Mwaura also clarified that Uhuru's office has been allocated 14 vehicles which were maintained and fueled by the state. On the office matter, the government maintained that Uhuru has declined to occupy the space provided to him in Nyeri, Nairobi County, which was previously occupied by former President Mwai Kibaki. Kanze had complained that Kenyatta has not been given the opportunity to choose an office that's suitable for his activities like his predecessors.
Because it is public knowledge that State House has been very clear on the position of the office in Nyeri as the only office that the president should use based on the fact that the office has been bought by government. A position that was clearly articulated by the State House spokesperson, Hussein Mohammed, during a question and answer session when he was doing the press briefing of President Ruto's visit to the United States of America. So the statement that the former president enjoys a fully furnished and maintained office of his choice provided by government is incorrect.
Just one day after the Parliamentary Finance Committee concluded the Finance Bill 2023-2024 public participation exercise, the Senate will today hold a special session to discuss some of the proposals in the bill. Chairman of the committee, Kimani Kuria, said the views of Kenyans will be prioritized in the preparation of the report on the bill that's expected to finance the budget for the year. Again, it's 2024-2025.
Sasa baada ya kumaliza kikao siku ya leo tuta retreat siku ya kesho Jumanne, lakini kesho tunapatana na other government agencies kwa sababu kuna Ministry of Transport, kuna yale mapendekezo ambao wanasema wanataka yangependa vipengele fulani vibadilishwe. Kuna pia National Treasury kuambia hii document yenu hivi ndio members of the public wamesema, na kwa hivyo kujaribu kuona kama tutakuwa sasa na ile consensus ya kwamba zile pesa ambazo mngetaka kuziraise kutokana na this na hii then how do we bridge the gap here kuhakikisha kwamba tena tuongezee mambo ya gharama ya maisha tena kwa kama vile ambavyo imependekezwa.
The bill was read for the first time in Parliament on May 13th before being presented to the Finance Committee. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has criticised the one man, one vote, one shilling mantra, denouncing it as short-sighted and detrimental to Kenya's future. Speaking in Marsabit, Kindiki said that supporters of the slogan, who include Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, fail to grasp its implications and long-term effects on the nation.
Ile tumekataa na ambaye ni kinyume na katiba ya nchi ya Kenya ni mtu yoyote wa kiwango chochote kujaribu kugawa ama kuwawanyisha wananchi wa taifa la Kenya kwa misingi ya kimaeneo ama misingi ya kiukoo na ukabila. Hiyo hatutakubali. We cannot encourage a situation where we start discriminating against any part of our country. Lamu ni Kenya, Marsabit ni Kenya, Kisumu ni Kenya, Kericho ni Kenya.
That's the news wire. I'm Lea Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
There's traffic this morning. In Nairobi and Kisii. Let's take a look quickly at what's coming off the Eastern Bypass. There's traffic then getting towards the North Airport Road. It's also coming in heavy from Cabanas, and it's going in the opposite direction. So in and outbound traffic is a thing here. All right. On Jogoo Road, also heavy as you're getting towards Landis and out towards Kamkunji at the roundabout. It's heavy on the Thika Superhighway. It's coming in heavy from Clay City all the way through towards Garden City. How many cities are on Thika Superhighway? But okay. Then as you go towards Pangani at the underpass, there's traffic there as well. Kiambu Road is also busy. There's also traffic coming in on Limuru Road. And Westlands off of Waiaki Way is busy as you get to the Museums Junction. Wangari Maathai not doing too bad right now. As you get onto Uhuru Highway, we'll see some traffic at your different junctions going towards University Way and then coming off of Haile Selassie as well. We'll be in traffic hour in about half an hour. Let's see what's happening then. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 7. How are you doing? Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. Happy Tuesday. It's the 11th day of June 2024. We have said Tuesdays until the end of June, we shall be having Finance Tuesdays, Finance Bill Tuesdays. We discuss the budget of the next financial year and what's happening in Parliament. We shall introduce our guest shortly. Before we do that, as we're talking about budget and all those things, June is also coming to an end. And KRA are telling you at the end of June, come 1st of July. This story we've been telling you about tax amnesty. We will no longer tell you about tax amnesty.
We want you to pay.
We'll want you to pay what you owe. Okay?
In full.
Yes. So you are required to have remitted your taxes. But if you had not done that by, taxes up to the end of December 2022, so taxes, there was the principal amount, and then it accrued some penalties, and then those penalties are accruing some interest. Now there's principal plus penalty plus interest. Kerry is saying we can discuss this penalty plus interest story and we can waive it, but you have to apply. And then we also can discuss the repayment of this principal, where we can stagger. But you have to come to talk to us before end of June.
Yes.
How do you talk to them?
So you can call. The number to call is 0711 099 999. That's 0711 099 999. Somebody's going to walk you through what you need to do. So if you're technologically astute, get onto the website www.kra.go.ke. You're going to go to the iTax tab, and then from there you will see the Debt and Enforcement tab, under which you will find the amnesty application. You need to click on that and do the business that is required on the following 5 tabs, and then all hunky-dory, you'll be fine. June 30th, you will not have to sweat because everything will be okay.
Mambo like that.
Yes.
Simbo, like that.
Yes.
Easy, talking about money again. Now, where are you putting your money? Where are you saving your money? Where are you borrowing money from when you need to, buy a house and you want to take up a mortgage?
Where am I doing it now?
Where?
Under the mattress.
Aha. Where should you do it?
Stanbic.
Very good.
Switch to Stanbic today. Competitive rates. Look, a fixed rate of 9.5%, home loan of up to 10.5 million shillings, and way in which you can take what you're currently doing at whatever institution that you're currently doing it, whether it's a loan, whether it's an active account, and switch to Stanbic. They'll say, come with open arms. Let's take everything that you have and settle you in your new home at Stanbic. Attractive rates.
What did you say? 9.5 is what?
Fixed term loan for your home loan.
9.5% interest.
Yes, please.
9.5%.
Yes.
9.5%.
9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points.
So I take a mortgage, a home loan today, 9.5%. It will be fixed.
That's what they're telling us. Per annum. That's what they're telling us per annum, up to 25 years. So why wouldn't you want to switch to Stanbic?
So you have a current home loan with another financial institution that's told you now because CBR rate, where the rate, your rate is moving this next, in the next, you're currently due at 16, 18%. You can actually move that to Stanbic.
Yes, you can.
They can buy it off.
Yes, they can.
And they'll fix the rate now at 9.5% for you.
Exactly.
Sasa nini ingine tunataka?
What else do you want in this life? There are very many options, my friends. Switch to Stanbic, move your account for your salary, move your account for your loans. They'll buy it off and make sure that you make your new home at Stanbic.
Okay. In the next hour, we'll tell you how you can also win some money. Senor, let's get into our Finance Tuesday conversation. CPA Robert Kamwara is a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. He is a tax expert. Tax experts mostly, usually, they have studied law and they've studied CPA. And others even have CPS. I don't know which of those Robert has. How many of those do you have, Robert? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Eric?
Very well. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room. So you are a lawyer?
Yes,
Root?
I am.
You're a CPAK?
Yes, I am.
What else?
That's enough for now.
Tuachie hapo. Kenya. You're a taxpayer?
Yes, I am.
And a tax expert?
Yes.
Welcome to the hot seat of the
Thank
Situation
you very much,
Room.
Eric.
Do you like meat?
Yes, I do.
Beef?
Yes, a lot.
Bas, tuko na beef.
Thank you.
Please tell him.
Have you heard of Kenchik?
Yes, I have. I've worked for Kenchik sometime.
So
I was
you
the chief
know.
accountant.
Sasa.
We're preaching to the choir.
Kabisa.
They're converted.
We will not need to ask for the savior of the souls, salvation of the souls of the converted.
Sure.
So you understand what we're talking about?
Yes.
Ah, you're good friends.
Farm to fork.
Bas.
There you are.
Your good friends have decided, you know what?
Yes.
We don't just do chicken. We do cattle as well.
Okay.
So now, product, it's like it's like I'm preaching to the preacher.
Let's just preach the choir.
So,
remind the preacher.
Remind the preacher of the sermon. The product is now beef.
Okay.
And he said, look, the same quality that we offered for chicken, we can now do that for beef because we know people like yourselves like beef. So why can't we transfer that same quality and have it done for beef? So you can imagine, think of Matilda and Lucy and Karen. Cows are sitting on a farm in Laikipia to be turned into this wonderful product. Sausage, burger. Those are the names of the cows. So I've decided. Sausage.
Why female cows only?
Cows are female, bulls are male. These are cows.
Okay. But we eat bulls.
Yeah, but this one we decided that they're cows because
We'll
they're
slaughter
soft.
the cows. Okay.
They're soft. Okay.
Right.
Just go with it.
Okay.
So, burgers, mincemeat, sausages, boerewors, mutura. You know?
Boiro.
Even the meat can be changed and be made into boiro.
True.
Can be made into boiro. All for you to enjoy. The same quality now transferred, and it's now Ken beef.
Wow. Okay.
And I think you need to try it.
Yes,
it's
gonna
really
try.
yummy stuff.
I've just heard about it now.
Yes,
Yeah.
you must. You
Okay.
must try it. It's
Great,
great stuff.
great.
Taste ni
Choice ni moja.
Okay.
Taste ni noma.
Okay. Wow, that's a good one.
Very good.
Looking forward.
So, Robert,
Yes.
City is going to welcome you with the day's proverb. And this week, the proverbs are from
the Republic of Zambia.
Okay.
Yes. If your luck deserts you, even cold food burns.
If your luck deserts you, even cold food burns. What's the interpretation of this one, Robert?
It's quite heavy that if everything leaves you, then you have nothing. Even the very basic that you expect to be there will not be there for you. That's true. That's what's happening.
When?
Even now.
Where?
Everything has gone away.
Oh my goodness. Really?
Yeah. Even our basic right to eat bread is no longer there. It's going to be taken away soon.
Let's start with this bread story, by the way. Okay. So we have seen politicians saying, mambo ya mkate wachana na propaganda ya watu, mkate tunapandisha. What does the finance bill propose when it comes to bread?
The finance bill now wants to rope in bread to be amongst the taxable commodities that we have. And remember, worldwide, what we do, taxation is not meant to press mwananchi or to press the citizens. It's meant to equalize most of the people and to collect revenue so that it can run government. But when you start earning or start getting revenue from basic commodities like bread, then you're suppressing the basic, the pockets of most of the people. Remember, this is a commodity that you need to consume every morning. And the so-called ngwashes and the sweet potatoes and the other things that we used to find cheaply, or what we'd call very healthy products to eat, are no longer affordable. The best you can rush to is go to the canteen and get a loaf of bread. But now it's going up by 10 shillings. So by 10 shillings, we're talking about, in a month, we're talking about over 300 shillings going up. And that's not little money.
That's a lot of money.
Yes. Remember, most of the people earn for the day. So you earn your money in the morning, you earn your money in the evening to spend it the following day, and there you are. So it's quite a press.
All these things that, because we have had very many conversations, Robert, on the finance bill. And there is cry from all quarters. Now, hustlers yesterday were crying to the finance committee and saying, come on, we're going to be affected. Manufacturers have complained. We are going to have, in the next hour, we're going to talk to Association of Startups and SMEs. They have also presented their petition to Parliament and they're complaining.
Right.
We have heard from the financial institutions, they're complaining. Insurance sector is complaining. The mobile money sector is complaining. It appears like everybody's complaining. Now, of course, you understand this finance bill. I'm sure you have looked at it back to forth and front to back. Are there good things in the finance bill?
There are quite a number of good things.
Okay, let's start with some good things.
So for the employed, remember we had the minimum amounts that would contribute for pension, the 20,000 shillings, for our saving for the future. That now has gone up to 30%, to 30,000.
What does that mean?
That means that if you are on a salary of 50,000 shillings, for example, and you're good enough to invest, you want to save most of it. So previously you would save up to 20, you would contribute 20,000 without being taxed. Only 30,000 would be taxed. Now we are saying out of the 50,000, 30,000 is what is going to be taxed, and we shall start computing the 10% or the 15% from the 30,000.
I don't get it.
All right.
Please.
Okay. So this is what you're saying.
Start slowly.
Okay. Let me make it simple for you to understand. It's a new policy that has come up to encourage people to save for the future, through their pension. Through their pensions.
Okay.
So if your salary minimum is, as we had said, 50,000, ideally you're supposed to start paying pay as you earn.
Yes.
From the first shilling. But the budget is philanthropic enough and tells you, previously we were at 20,000, so instead of start deducting your first 20,000, start deducting your first 30,000.
Okay.
Okay. So this is meant to nab mostly.
So meaning shilling 1 to shilling 30 will not be taxed.
Will not be taxed.
We are starting now from the first 30,000 going on.
Right.
Okay.
Now this is meant to mostly encourage the 100,000, 200,000 earners and above, the middle upper. And the benefits of this is most of these monies that go and sit in the pension can be used by government to run other schemes that they may want to have. And remember, the pensions, these are the insurance companies are the ones who will lend to government. They're the ones who will build houses for people.
Right.
And then the economy continues growing.
What does it mean to my payslip? Am I taking more home because of this move?
Yes, you'll take more.
Okay.
Yes.
So from that 50,000 shillings, if previously I was taking X, now I have some more.
That's right.
That will be in my net.
Right.
Okay. Another good thing?
Another good thing is the VAT threshold. Previously, if you are to have paid 5 million shilling, if you are to have started paying VAT at 5 million income, now you move to 8 million. So your incomes have to be up to 8 million shillings for you to register for VAT.
This is for small businesses?
For small businesses.
So for a small SME, if you open, you don't have the VAT, mandatory VAT obligation.
Yes.
If your revenues per year are below 8 million.
That's right.
Okay. Previously it was?
It was 5 million.
5 million.
Yeah.
So now, yes, a bit more wiggle room. What's the benefit of this?
The benefit of this is to allow startups to operate for some time until they are able to generate money enough to start paying taxes. So it's an incentive for farmers, for mostly small businesses, including farmers and including businesses that run down here that can be allowed to start earning incomes up to the time they are getting to 8 million shillings. So that's an incentive.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are amongst the many other benefits that we are having. We have the investment allowances that are there. These are targeting mostly large investors, people coming in from investments with large amounts of money. The tourism industry also has an incentive that has been given to them. Surprisingly, most of the people are saying that the reason some of these incentives have been done are targeting specific businesses and specific individuals. And the demerits are also targeting specific individuals, certain businesses. Right. So it's both ways. Ideally, a budget should be one that gives incentives to people in growing their businesses. But if it's going to be a disincentive, then at the end of the day, the economy is going to feel it. Yes.
Are we looking at anything that, if we look at broad strokes,
yes,
for the nation as a whole,
yes,
where people will be able to look at it, whether it's a demerit or a merit?
Yes.
What are we looking at that affects Kenyans in a good way, that we would be welcoming, that Kenyans would be welcoming of, and say, okay, this is a good thing?
It's not the current budget that we are having has got very few good things, so to speak. You look at it and see what is it how is it affecting the common mwananchi in a good way. I would really be struggling to get something that is very good in that budget.
Wow.
Okay. However, the budget has been reduced with about over 200 billion shillings. That is one good thing. They have cut down on it.
Let's
okay.
When we say they have reduced this current financial year's budget, how much was it?
It's past 3 trillion shillings.
So it's 3.6.
Yes.
Is it?
Right.
So are we saying that the next year's financial budget is 3.4?
Well,
because that's when you can say now the budget has been reduced.
Yes, the budget has been cut, and ideally what that means is expenditure has, when they have, in the long run, when they look at everything that they are spending, they've seen that there is a window that they can reduce their expenditure. And remember, a budget is both expenditure and income.
Yep.
So all of a sudden now it is clear that we are overspending on certain things. And yesterday I think we saw a few things coming up. The budget cut on, whether it's directly or indirectly, the budget cut on the former president's expenditure. There are many expenditures that can be cut down on, unnecessary expenditure. And the issue of integrity and the issue of accountability comes in. The issues of governance, we can now see that these are areas that we can start exploring to ensure that our budget is proper.
But Robert,
yes,
has the budget actually been reduced?
The budget, as they are saying it, has been cut.
What is the proposed expenditure for the next financial year?
Well, the percentage is not realistic. It could be barely 1%.
What's the proposed expenditure in the next financial year?
Slightly past 3 trillion.
Is it not 3.9?
Yes.
Okay. So from 3.6 this year to 3.9 next year.
Yes.
What is the reduction?
But can't you see it? It's clear. The reduction is supposed to be an imaginary figure. You are supposed to
imagine the figure.
Your sense of imagination, because 3.6 to 3.9 normally is an increase. But in this instance, you're being asked to imagine that it has reduced. So please.
Imagine that it has reduced.
It's imaginary.
Yes.
So there was a conversation, it started at 4.2, what they wanted to have spent was 4.2.
Right.
And then they reduced the figure from 4.2 to 3.9.
Right.
And they said, we have reduced the budget. Is that realistic?
Well,
you wanted to spend 4.2 from 3.6. Then you come and say, instead of spending 4.2, we'll spend 3.9 from 3.6. Where is the reduction?
Well, we leave it to them to tell us. That's why we have public participation. And remember, this time round, Eric, the public participation has been heavy. We are yet to see the fruits of the public participation. Last year, we did a lot of public participation. Everything was taken to Parliament, just as it has been done this time, like it will be done today or tomorrow. But at the end of the day, during the debate time, the parliamentarians actually even added more expenditure. I remember when they were talking about the affordable housing. Yeah. So they argued it out, and at the end of the day, when it came out from Parliament wrote its own issues. Budget. Yes, it did its own budget. And remember, they're the representatives of the people.
Let's look at this. I think we've been, for the last couple of weeks, we've been asking questions about, what this all looks like. Public participation comes to an end today. Or rather, it came to an end yesterday. Came to an end yesterday, and largely, the hue and cry has been, or I don't know that I've run into anybody or heard anything whereby those involved in public participation have said that, this is great, let's embrace it with both hands and then move forward, except for the proponents, of such. So across the board, there seems to be major dissatisfaction with the proposals that are being made. And I think the foreboding thing here is that it's possible that the recommendations in the finance bill will be passed. But I think it is important for us to look at really what it means, some of these proposals that are being made. Now, from what we see, is it possible for the country to move in a positive trajectory with these proposals that we are seeing being made in the finance bill? Is it possible?
Yes,
mind you that this is over and above what already sits in terms of responsibility for taxation for Kenyans. Is it possible to move forward with these new proposals that are being then brought about?
Yes, it is. And why I say that is, remember, most of the proposals that are being made to reduce the taxation that people are being asked to pay. For example, the proposals that most of the people in public participation have made is to cut down on the...
Oh, no. I mean the proposals that are being put in the finance bill
the ones that are being put in.
Yes.
Definitely with the proposals that are there, they are meant to run the government as it is. Unfortunately, if you look at the expenditure that we have, the expenditure is too high. And the points at which we expect to collect this money, we have seen of late the Kenya Revenue Authority has been crying off going at a deficit, right? So if they're not able to collect, then they're not able to run the government as it is. But with the proposals that we have in place, if they can actually be implemented, then we expect that on the other side, government should run as it's supposed to do. I don't know if I answer your question. However, with a shortfall, without collecting what they're actually saying, then it will be very hard to run government.
Isn't it counterproductive, what we're looking at here? I mean, I think CT alludes to this quite often, that the very thing that you're trying to achieve, you are unable to achieve it because if you raise the prices on certain, because essentially that's what we're looking at, right?
Right.
A price increase because of the fact that a tax has been applied.
Right.
Whether it's transport, food, oil, whatever, it goes higher. So the likelihood of people to continue the purchase, which is what you're banking on in order to collect that revenue, the likelihood of them continuing then dips. So then you lose out on what it is that you were seeking to do in the first place. It seems almost easy for me to understand. Why wouldn't we be able to get that?
I think you bring it home by now bringing it that way, because you see, the same people you're taxing are the same people you expect to be paying these taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, these people you're pushing to pay the taxes, you expect them to get money from the moon and be able to pay the taxes. Remember, most of them are employees who have businesses. These are the same people you expect to finance this budget, so it will be pressing them too much. However, if the collection is, you see, that's the reason why we're talking about the expansion of the tax base. And the issue of the motor vehicle tax comes in, where they talked about the wealth tax. And they are assuming that if they see you and you're driving a nice car, or you're driving a car out there, you have not paid your taxes. That's actually the punishment that they're calling. It's actually putting us on sin because you're driving a car. Now, if they collect such kind of taxes, this time when through the insurance, you'll end up maybe you find yourself you're in default of paying your insurance. Maybe you are staggering on your installments for paying the insurance.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? If you had a plan to inject into a small business somewhere, that one stalls for some time. If you're planning to take your children to school, to change your children from one school to another, where basically we are not, the provisions of government is to provide you with education, to provide you with proper medication, free medication in itself, but now you have to spend. And you're actually doing it on behalf of government. And that's what you're saying. You should be getting a relief instead. If I have to go to hospital and go to spend money at Nairobi hospital, I was supposed to have used my taxes to go to Kenyatta hospital, where medication should be free, or Mama Lucy.
Yeah.
But now I don't have that relief because I have to spend a bit more on those kind of expenses. So fine, I would say if it's true that we were actually evading tax, then it's a good budget. But ideally, you were sure that all of us are being taxed heavily.
I refuse to believe, in all honesty, that all these experts we have, economists, finance people, in KRA and in the Treasury, came up with what we are seeing here. They live in this country. They know exactly where it pains and where it pinches. This country has a habit. We see it very, very often. Something is discussed, a document is produced. What comes out later, people wonder, excuse me, this is not what we agreed on.
True.
This is not what we wrote. And it appears that this is what we're dealing with yet again. We know we borrowed from IMF. And if you've lived as long as I've lived and you've seen the fingers and the machinations of IMF and World Bank in our affairs, this is it again. What I worry about the IMF and what concerns me is not that they're tinkering with us, they're experimenting. These things that they're telling us to do, where have they worked? Where? Can they tell us a blueprint that tells us, okay, IMF, you've given us money, we've got that, we've understood it, it's supposed to help us, we also get that, but okay. These things that you're forcing the Kenyan government to do, where have they worked? Where have they been implemented to the letter, and where have they worked? Because you don't even need to understand economics to know that this thing, do you really need to study economics to understand that when the price of bread goes up, life becomes difficult? You don't. Do you really need to understand that when you tax vehicles to the rate that, whatever rate it is, that suddenly everything about transportation will become impossible? You don't need to even go to school to understand that. It's very simple. So why does somebody think that they can implement all these things that will not just make the life of the citizenry of this country difficult, it'll make the lives of the citizenry impossible?
The World Bank and IMF are probably talking to you directly. You
I'm talking to them.
Back as your leaders borrowed left, right, and center, and they ate the money, and you did not take action on them. And now they're telling you directly. Now you see, it's you to pay. Let's take a break, City. 27 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation is having a finance bill Tuesday. Conversation with CPA Robert Kamwara. He is a member of ISPAC's Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. The budget 2024-2025. What's in it? What's working? What will not work? Even if what? We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Some very nice, mature music.
It really took me back to my days, and I can just feel young again and enjoy the vibes.
Spice.
I'm a big listener of SpiceFM.
You play the best music.
This is 94.4 Spice FM.
Nimechoka. Unaniharakisha and you can see I'm in heels. Tulianzia Moi Avenue, then Kenyatta Avenue. Sasa tuko downtown. Kwani we are lost?
Baby, no. We're almost there. Nibile, I have many bank accounts in many banks. Let's cross the road.
Okay.
Wait,
Ona karibu nigongwe. And now my heel is even broken.
Buy others.
How do I walk now?
You don't need to bank all over the place. At Stanbic Bank, we offer a range of banking solutions from 7 million in digital unsecured loans up to 14% interest on savings, 9.5% fixed rate on home ownership, and so much more. Start a chance to win 1 million. Open an account and switch your salary to Stanbic Bank. Or for existing clients, increase your balance by 50,000. SMS switch to 22208. Promo ends 5th September 2024. BCLB number 000105. Terms and conditions apply.
You know that feeling where there's a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to. But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
Bow! Yes.
Oh, wow!
Yes. Umeona hiyo bao? Bao gani? Kwani wewe unasherekea nini?
Bro, KRA ni kama umenipea discount.
We acha zako.
Cheki, nilikuwa na deni ya 148,396 shillings na KRA wameniambia nilipe 88.
Partly sunny conditions in Nairobi, highs of 22 today. And we'll see highs of 24 in Nakuru, where it's sunny at 14. It's 14 and sunny in Nyeri with highs of 22, and at 23, that'll be the high in Eldoret, where it is sunny at 13. It's partly sunny at 25 in Mombasa with highs of 30, and we'll see highs of 30 as well in a sunny Malindi at 27. Kisumu is sunny at 20 with highs of 28, and Kakamega at 17 is sunny going to highs of 28 as well. Partly sunny at 22 in Kampala with highs of 27, while into Dar es Salaam at 23, it's sunny and will go to highs of 30. 3 degrees clear in Johannesburg with highs of 15, and we'll see highs of 31 in a sunny Mogadishu at 26. It's 16 and cloudy in Addis Ababa with highs of 23, and we're looking into a cloudy Lagos at 26 going to highs of 30, while it's clear in Kinshasa at 21 going to highs of 30.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so is it busy in the city? Yes, it is. Doesn't really matter where you are this morning. It's been really busy coming off of Thika Superhighway. We're going to cross over to that Allsops Junction and then out towards Survey. It's all coming in heavy from Clay City through towards Garden City. That traffic then coming in from Kasarani is not so bad now. Limuru Road is busy coming in from Kitisuru out towards Gigiri and then Muthaiga. The Northern Bypass has quite some traffic today. Some of that will go through towards Kiambu Road, the rest of it towards Ruaka, and then out towards Limuru Road, where you find an outlet. On Waiaki Way, there is some traffic getting into the CBD. Landis Road now has packed up, and is also packed up around the Globe Cinema roundabout. That looks like it's going to be busy for a minute. Also now, traffic on Naivasha Road is quite something this morning. It's bumper to bumper. There must be something going on because it's not usually like this. Coming out towards Ngong Road. And then on the other side of things, Jogo Road is busy as well. We're getting into traffic hour proper now. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
2 minutes to 8. Our conversation continues with CPA Robert Kamwara, tax expert and a member of the East Park Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. So Parliament is now fully in charge of the next phase of our budget. And this is basically looking at expenditure, looking at the revenue-raising measures, and giving us the two bills, the appropriation and the finance bill, and taking them for assent to the president. There's been this conversation about, even you said it many times, cutting back on our expenditure, making sure that we are managing our expenditure, making sure that we are doing what is absolutely necessary with the little money that we have. Do you see that in government?
We are at that stage in life where we are growing. Remember, 1963 was our date of birth, so to speak. Kenya was born that time. And now we are headed up there. And the country now is about, how old, 60 years?
Yes,
slightly past 60 years. So let's take the lifespan of the country to be a bit longer, not like a human being. But now this person can speak. And this person started by crawling, this person now can walk around, run, and do all those things. Now we've got to a point where people can speak. Years back, during the previous two other regimes, let's talk during the Moi's time, we couldn't participate and talk about all these things as it is. Right now, there is public participation going on. And a bit more now, there is openness and accountability. Chapter 12 of the Constitution, Public Finance, talks about openness and accountability. I can say at least people now can speak. But is there openness? Is there accountability? To some extent, it is now there. You can see the Auditor General now is not only auditing books for 5 years back as it was before. Now she's coming as closer as last year, and this year's expenditure, she's looking to some of these things. So there is an attempt to that. Although I can say it's not 100%, but there is a good attempt.
So we're getting there.
We are getting there.
But are we cutting back our expenditure?
We need to do that,
William
but we're
Ruto
not.
at first addressed Parliament as president, he said, among the things that I want to make sure we do in this administration is reduce on how much we are spending. In fact, I'm instructing the National Treasury to come and tell Parliament how we can cut back 300 billion shillings in that 2022-2023 budget. I don't know whether they did, but he's been talking about that we are, going to spend only what we can necessarily afford. Do you say, Patrick, that just looking at the government expenditure and where money is going and just casual looking, that we are actually now being more careful with our expenditure?
I don't think we are. Why do I say that? I try to look at things a bit drastically, a bit drastic, like look at when COVID came. All of a sudden, we used to move in crisscross people's offices, go to have meetings, and to move from one country to another, go to the New York, fly and come down. All of a sudden, we started doing things on Zoom. That completely cut our costs by over 1,000,000%. So if we are to go that direction, if we have such kind of a percentage, I try thinking on things to the extreme. If we are to cut down on costs, we completely have to have a different a change in our thinking, completely. Even the way we do things, the way we run our offices, the way we operate, the way we travel out of the country, and the way we do things generally. So that's the only way we can have a proper budget cut. Because with the current situation, if you look at most of these things, we simply just try and do the same things that were done those years. Bei ya mkate, we cut on beer, sin taxes. That is, we oscillate around the same area. Nothing new, nothing when it comes to expanding, what we call expanding the tax base. It's nothing so creative. So we completely need to get a sitting of people who understand what this is. And remember, we had Mzee Kibaki when he came into power. He sat down with his few technocrats, people who had understood session paper number 1, all through. And they said, let's implement some of these things. We have all these good things that have been put in the cabinets. And as they say, they are accumulating dust. If we could get these experts who could sit down and now look at how we can change things. And we don't not only bring in those old experts, but also bring the digital people, the Gen Zs who have got these new ideas who now are being put into taxation. And let's sit down with them and let's see how we can change the whole of this thing. This also may go all the way down to the issue of changing our constitution and some of the way things are being done. And maybe that's when now we'll see a budget cut.
When we change the law, there will be a budget cut as opposed to folks just doing what they're meant to do according to the same law. According to the same law, it's already prescribed that there's certain things that you must do in a certain way. And I think this all boils down to folks just not doing what they're supposed to do, not just because of their moral upstanding, but even what the law says that you should actually do. The very beginning of the same law that governs this nation is that there's power that's vested amongst the people. and look at the very same action of public participation that took place over the last couple of weeks, that people are saying one thing in one voice, there's no discordance here, where would it be that they listen to what the people say? And the fear is that there will be regard for what the people say, but in terms of implementing the voices of the people, where does that come in?
This is how I look at it. Chapter 12, as you have talked about public participation, and we talk about openness. I started by talking about Chapter 12 that talks about openness, accountability, and public participation on financial matters. That is where the Constitution ends. It's just say that.
You should participate.
Yes, you should participate.
Okay.
There should be openness. Okay, now if Courier says, I invited people for public participation.
And they were open.
Yes, and we are open. We have let the auditor come in. That's why I'm saying we need to change the law, because now the law needs to get people become smart enough. We have known how to cover ourselves and make sure that we have done the basic things. But how are we implementing this? That's why a change of the law would help, because now we'd get a bit more detailed and now put people to task and say that if you spend more than this amount of money, or if you do this and this at this particular time, then you should be out of office. We cannot continue containing you here. Yeah. If you misuse money and do this, you cannot go ahead and say, I'll still wait for investigations when I'm still in office. So we have the basic things, we have the basic pillars that have been put, which were important for us 10 years, since 2010, Constitution of Kenya 2010, now about 14 years old. But now we need to change things. And that's now when we'll now be able to now have a proper mind change on how to proceed, because we're just oscillating on the same point.
But Robert, do we need any law to tell the parliamentary committee that listen to the people? If all these stakeholders have come and said this is going to have this effect on business, on livelihoods, amend it or do something about it. Do you need any law to actually tell the finance committee this is what the people are saying, and we've got to incorporate their views into this? We can go back to the budget committee and tell the budget committee, you know what, the tax measures, the revenue raising measures that have been presented by the Treasury are unrealistic. So let's have that conversation. Do we reduce the budget, or do we allow this huge deficit that the government is going to borrow? Can they have that conversation? Because it sounds like, Kimani Kuria is boxed between they have to spend 3.9 trillion shillings. They plan to raise 2.7 trillion shillings from taxes. This is what they're saying they need to do. If we reduce anything here, then we are affecting how they operate as the executive. It's like he's boxed. Do we need any law to tell him? No.
Remember, we have this. These are elected leaders.
Yep.
As she said it's the people who have brought them into power, not the executive. And at the end of the 5 years, by the fourth year, 9th month, the executive starts losing its ground. Remember, and who now starts having more power is the people.
Yep.
So what we're saying is, we call ourselves we the people, as the Constitution has put it. Let's look at who we have elected as leaders. So if you have elected people as your leaders, and now it's time for them to go and do what they're supposed to do with the public participation, but they decide to go and start dining with the executive, what do you expect? So when we say about changing of the law, from the point at which we are saying we have a whole chapter on legislature. In the Constitution, we have a whole chapter. Does it cover what we are supposed to be getting? Times have changed. Do you think that chapter on legislation is up to date? Is it current? Yeah. That's why we're saying we could be dealing with outdated laws.
It is possible, but I want to change that discussion completely and ask the question to the organization you belong to. A very powerful organization indeed. Very powerful.
ISPA Corel-SK.
I am talking about the body that brings together all the people who understand accounting and finance.
Yes,
together.
ISPAC.
Yes, because even our Auditor General is a member of that.
Of the institute.
Yes, and people whom we talk about, Chairman of the Finance Committee, members, all these people. Let me ask the question.
Yes.
Has the organization ever sought to ensure, beyond what we're now doing, communicating to the Mwananchi through the media, through other avenues, so that they actually understand their obligation and what they need to do. Why do I say this? Because we're discussing money here. And the people who actually understand how we ought to go about using it to make the lives of the people better are actually people like you. You understand details. You do this wrong, this goes completely awry. I ask the question because if the sovereign doesn't fully comprehend the consequences of their not doing their duty by holding their leaders to account, then woe betide them. They will suffer.
That's right.
We have countries in the EU that have suffered as a result of similar things, but they took a different path. I'm talking about Greece. Greece was known for one thing. People often underdeclared what it is that they earned, and so whatever they paid was minuscule, even if you looked at the categories of taxpayers. And it became something that was national. People underdeclaring and paying. So cumulatively, you'll find they've paid probably 15% of what ought to have been paid to the government. And so it is explained the government kept getting into serious financial problems. Okay? People talk of the Kibaki era. In the Kibaki era, something very unique happened. People started paying taxes.
Willingly.
Yes, they were paying. That's the thing. They were paying. And that is the reason why the government could tell the lenders, just hold on, just give it, we need to sort our things out. A whole year went by, no development as we consolidate and organize ourselves, and then we started moving forward. Now, I'm saying this because whenever something is talked about and examples are given of other countries, we actually forget that we've done similar things in the country, which means once it's been done, we now know it can be done. But do our citizenry understand what their role is? Because sometimes I think it's not that they don't want to, they don't know what to do. They are stuck. They are just completely stuck, dealing with everyday problems and then looking at this gigantic issue, and the people who are supposed to represent them doing what they do best, avoiding the representation. The sovereign is stuck.
I can carry the blame for the institute, if you may want to put it that way.
Yes.
Ideally, there is ignorance, but again, Mwananchi's involvement in most of these things is meant to be done by his representatives. That's why he elects people who are informed. And he'll take to parliament an accountant, a doctor, a medical doctor for that case, an engineer, and a journalist, somebody of your knowledge and experience. And we expect them to do that. And as I've said once again, I think change of laws on how we have our representation is very important. Remember, some time back, we had the 2/3 gender rule. That time, what was of great interest was ensuring that we have a proper representation of both male and female in parliament or in leadership. Is that what now we are looking for? Maybe we're looking for a bit more than that. And that's why we're saying change of laws would help, because we need to relook again. Now we are 24 years we are 14 years into our Katiba, our old Katiba. Nationally, since 1963, we had to put on the graph, we are so old to this extent. Time to start rethinking, because come next year, come the other year, the 5-year term of President Ruto will be over, and we'll be still on the same thing, debating on bread, very embarrassing, debating on fuel, and other small taxes that we should be thinking of greater things.
How can you guys help? Like City is asking, how can ISPAC, the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, actually help steer this ship in that direction? Because you hold, like, for example, you as a committee of the legislative affairs in ISPAC, you are the ones who deal with our parliamentarians who are members of ISPAC, or also who are in charge of finance of budgets. You have members of ISPAC who is the cabinet secretary for the National Treasury.
Right.
Member of ISPAC who are also sitting in the President's Advisory Council. And all of them. So you've got influence. At that level, there's influence. And then below that, there is awareness creation. And that's what City is asking. How can ISPAC create more awareness about what to look out for, what to think about when this process ends and we begin the next budget making process and also oversighting implementation of the budget, how can the citizens participate better? What kind of information do they need? What do we need to be looking out for every month on the reports from the National Treasury? What is it that we should be looking out for to make sure that the money that has been earmarked for expenditure in budget is actually going to the right thing? So at the end of the year, when you're now making the next budget, we already know. But you guys did not give Uhuru his money, and yet we put it here. So where is the money? But you did not put money in education, and yes, it was X amount of money. So where is the money? Where did it go to? What happened here and there? We can ask those questions from an informed point of view.
True. I think City has actually said it. You've actually answered it. Because it's an issue of income and expenditure, let's have a bit more of transparency. And that's where ISPAC comes in. ISPAC comes in through the various forums that it has to help the people appreciate that this is the way money is being spent. We don't want to start auditing figures for 10 years back. As it has been said, we've been looking at, by the way, who audits the office of the office of the president? Who audits the expenditures? Now, the person who's coming to audit will come and audit President. Well, actually, the current audits that are going on are during Uhuru's time or even earlier. All right, the president is out of office. His team is already out of office. Who audits the State House? Who audits the various parastatals that we have? That's what we're saying. We need to have ISPAC also, amongst other bodies, being given more strength. We have so many accountants out here who can go around and look at numbers and look at figures, but they're not empowered to do that because they've not been given the ability and the resources to get into training. However, clearly speaking, we need to have a bit more of accountability. And this starts with our leadership. Yes. For us to allow ISPAC, for us to allow LSK to speak, because they're talking right now. We have Kuria, who is a member of the Institute. We have all the lawyers who have been there ever since. But people are not, their voices are not being heard.
No, you are in a position to hold them to account.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because then what the question is then what is this, how potent is the sound of the lobby when it comes? I think of, professional bodies or organizations in other jurisdictions who are very, very clear about the position. It does seem as though we have a lot of the organizations or bodies speaking after the fact.
Yes.
When it has already been floated, when there is a paper out, when there are proposals in the finance bill out, then there's a flurry of activity and this professional body is speaking, the other one is speaking, and everybody's just rallying around this thing to say, let us. So, and then you say, well, we're not involved in the process. So then I would ask, how loud is the lobbying voice to say, let us then be involved in the process? Because we can represent people, because we have Kenya Association of Manufacturers who come up after the fact. We have associations. How many have we spoken to in the last couple of weeks?
Several.
So where is the voice in saying, in the processes which you will make decisions or make proposals about things that affect our bodies, about things that affect people, can we be involved in those processes? How loud is that voice?
It's getting louder. The last line of defense now is where we are. We're headed to Parliament. Let's wait and see what they're going to do. We expect that they do their job. We've done most of the things. Public participation, ISPAC has done its job. LSK has shouted. Everybody else has shouted. Mwananchi Mama Wanjiko has shouted. Everybody is making noise. Now we've told Parliament through the legislation, we are watching.
Coming for you.
Yeah,
okay.
we are watching. We are actually want to see how you're going to do it. The executive gave its budgets, gave its numbers, and Mwananchi has said, no. For you to achieve this, this is not possible. So how do you go about it?
How does Parliament handle it going forward?
And back to leadership again. That's the top tier. Tier 1. Let's see how it goes. And thereafter, let's see how judiciary acts. Because we have the various organs. Because thereafter people will rush to court. And say, we had said this, public participation. How do the three bodies or the three arms of government come into play?
So it's not over yet. It's not over.
Yes. We are still young and growing. And
this conversation continues.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all not lost.
Well, but thank you very much for joining us today. Yes. As we go, I want to tell you about Showmax. You know Showmax. I'm sure there's Showmax in your household.
Yes, there's
even if you don't watch it, there's Showmax in the household. There are people who watch. This 17th of June, there's a new show that's coming up. It's called Gigi. It follows the lives of 4 girls in the streets of Jericho. It's the streets of
Jericho.
Okay.
Jericho.
It's Jericho. In the streets of Jericho is Jerry, forced into a life of crime to make ends meet. Gigi is a fast-paced youth drama that follows the lives of the 4 young girls in the streets of Jericho, a low-income settlement in Nairobi. They are forced into a life of crime. 18-year-old Jules will do anything to provide for her family. Her younger brother has gone into college, right?
Top tier school he's found, and she's like, wait a minute. How are we going to pay for this thing?
The only way to get money to take your small bro to school is to get money from Robert and others.
Showmax next big thing, yeah? 300 bob, and it's free for those guys in premium DSTV, yeah?
There you
I know
go.
it, yeah. It's interesting. I'm informed.
It's 8
You should pay
a.m.
me for that.
Spice up your life.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Umbaga. Senators will today convene a special sitting to consider several bills currently pending before the House. In a Gazette notice, Speaker Amason Kingi said the sitting will be held at 2:30 p.m. in the Senate chambers at Parliament buildings. Kingi said the lawmakers will consider, among others, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Amendment Bill 2024. The bill seeks to tweak the composition of the IBC selection panel to pave the way for the recruitment of the new electoral agency commissioners. Already the National Assembly has approved the bill that originated from the National Dialogue Committee. The senators will also consider the county allocation of Revenue Bill 2024. The bill seeks to divide among the 47 counties the 400 billion shillings allocated to the devolved units in the Division of Revenue Act. President William Ruto signed into law the mediated version of the Division of Revenue Bill 2024. And police engaged a mob in running battles as they siphoned fuel from an overturned tanker along Eldoret to Webuye Road in Kakamega County. According to police, the mob had rushed to the scene armed with all manner of jerrycans and started to siphon the fuel, oblivious of the dangers they were posing to themselves and the area in general. Previous such incidents have left dozens dead and others badly wounded. Police said the trailer with 39,000 litres of super petrol overturned in the Mohonje area on Monday night as it raced from Eldoret to Malaba area. The driver told police he lost control of the trailer and veered off the road on the left side and landed into a ditch. And moving on is that thousands of junior secondary school teachers on contract who were on the just concluded strike have been sacked 2 days after they ended their go-slow. The Teacher Service Commission says the teachers failed to report to duty and engaged in professional misconduct. Last month, the TSC issued show-cause letters to over 7,000 teachers about the controversial internship program. However, the number of those said to be sacked remains unknown. Capet had agreed with the Commission on the withdrawal of all the show-cause letters which had been sent to teachers. Days before Treasury CS Njuguna Ndungu reads the estimated budget for the year 2024-2025, some MCAs have asked MPs to amend some of the issues in the bill that have faced opposition from Kenyans. Speaking in Webuye West constituency, Olkorai Ward MCA Peter Palanga said Kenyans shouldn't be forced to pay additional taxes as they're already suffering.
Hiyo finance bill iko na vipenge kadhaa ambazo zina uchumu na zinanyanyaza wananchi. Nataka kuchallenge tu viongozi wetu wasiende katika bunge na wasahau kazi ya wale watu ambao waliwatuma. Sasa hivi kila jambo limewekwa ushuru, mfanyikazi wa kawaida anaumia. Ni jambo la kusikitisha kwamba viongozi wetu wala ambao tumewachagua, tumewaaminia uongozi kwamba wataenda kututetea, wameenda kupokea kile wanachopokea, hatujajua ni nini, lakini tunawahitaji kuwaona wakisimama kidete wakitetea sisi ambao ni wananchi wa kawaida.
Palanga has further asked President William Ruto not to ignore the cries of Kenyans who elected him so as to ensure they experienced better livelihoods.
Na rais, sikiza sauti ya watu wa kawaida. Wewe mwenyewe ni hustler, wewe ni mwenyewe ulipanda ngazi ukafika mahali ulipo kwa sababu ni hustler. Tunasema mheshimiwa, tafadhali sikiza sauti ya mtu wa kawaida. Sikiza sauti ya mnyonge, sikiza sauti ya mama mboga, sikiza sauti ya ule mama ambaye hajiwezi. Wana bodaboda hawa wanalia, hata mafuta kununua imekuwa ni shida. Tafadhali vile ulivyokuwa unaweka ahadi ukiingia katika uongozi, tunagusihi kumbuka ile ahadi uliweka, tembea na watu wako.
And finally, in the international scene, a plane carrying Malawi's vice president and 9 others is still missing after failing to make a scheduled landing. The aircraft took off from the capital of Lilongwe around 9:50 a.m. local time and never arrived at Mzuzu International Airport, disappearing from radar according to officials. The trip was scheduled to last about 45 minutes. In an address to the nation, Malawi's President Lazarus Chakwera said the plane failed to land because of bad weather and was advised to turn back around and return to Lilongwe. Chakwera added that the search had been narrowed to a specific zone.
But I want to assure you that I am sparing no available resource to find that plane. And I am holding on to every fiber of hope that we will find survivors. The pilot was unable to land the plane due to poor visibility occasioned by bad weather. And aviation authorities advised the aircraft to return to Lilongwe.
That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can't run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, so what's happening now? There's traffic coming off of Magadi Road. It's going to spill over to Langata Road, all the way out towards that Carnival Junction, past Huru Gardens, out then towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. On the way, some of that traffic is going to spill over towards Raila Odinga Way, and we can already see that traffic then piling up on Gong Road. Naivasha Road traffic was heavy this morning, spilling over towards Ngong Road, and that continues even now. And so Ngong Road is busy. Traffic coming in from Raila Odinga, everybody going towards Community and then into the CBD. So that's really busy. It's busy on Landys Road, in and outbound traffic that's coming in from Jogo Road. So that's another whole kettle of fish. It's busy on the Thika Superhighway. Kangunda Road, yeah, we know that traffic started very early here, and then coming off of Wayaki Way, there is some traffic here as well. It's a busy morning. We are in traffic hour. Traffic coming off the northern bypass. Some of that was going towards Kiambu Road. The rest of it going and finding its way towards Limuru Road. And then look at Spring Valley coming in towards coming in from Lower Kabete rather. And that is busy as well. Let's take a look in about half hour and see what it looks like. Talk to us, SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 9 minutes after 8 on the 11th day of June 2024. Welcome to the Situation Room. If you're just joining us on SpiceFM, on KTN Home, on YouTube, on Facebook, and because we've got a Gen Z boss, we're also live on TikTok. Sisi ndio wale. Sisi ndio wale.
No cap.
No cap.
But you cap.
And eating the crumbs.
It's actually very lovely to hear the two of you talking alien. Good.
So everybody, thank you very much for joining us. KRA is reminding you that you have until the 30th of June to talk to them if you want to take advantage of this tax amnesty program that they have. It expires on the 30th of June. So basically, for tax obligations up to the 31st of December 2022, you should have paid your tax, so you didn't pay, so there was a premium, then it attracted some penalties, then the penalties keep attracting interest. Because of that, now the figure is looking something completely different. They say we can waive the interest and penalties. Sawa, the penalties and interest. So it's good to have them in right order. We can waive the penalties and interest, but then we can also talk about the principal, and the principal you can pay in installments. That's only if you talk to them. How do you get onto KRA?
Okay, so you can. There's where there's a will, there's a where, isn't it? So let's get on the website first. www.kra.go.ke. You will find the tab that says iTax. You're going to click on that. And then from there, you're going to go to another tab that talks about debt and enforcement. Under that, you will find the amnesty, tax amnesty application. You fill that out. It's really easy. You get through the remaining tabs and you'll be done with that. So then if you're looking at the thing and you're like, okay, where is iTax? All you need to do is pick up the phone, call somebody, and they'll walk you through the process. How do you do that? You dial 0711 099 999. Somebody will pick up the phone. They will speak to you. They'll walk you through the thing. Come the 30th of June.
Mumble like that. Speaking of money, if you have a salary and you'd like to channel it to a place that you'll actually make some money, Stanbic is a place to go. If you're thinking of a home loan and you're thinking, okay, now these interest rates are looking completely ridiculous, Stanbic is a place to go. Ati, how much is the interest rate?
9.5.
9.5%.
9.5. Only fixed.
9.5.
Wait. 9.5. Let's say it in another language for it to land.
That sounds like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, right? It's as simple as that.
Simple as that, yes.
9.5%, and it's fixed.
Yes, it is, per annum.
So
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter, MPCs, GOs, interest rate, CBRO.
Let them do what they want. They want to jump
No reducing balance.
9.5% fixed for the term of the home loan that you've taken.
Yes, up to 25 years.
Up to 25 years. If you decide it's 10 years, I want to pay this for the 20, 25 years. 25 years at 9.5%.
I'm telling you. It's like they're giving you a house and you just give them money and then you return it back to them.
Okay. And if you have a mortgage with another financial institution, you can actually transfer it.
Yes. Switch.
They are easily available, and they're saying we switch
to Stanbic.
To Stanbic.
Yes.
Today, right now.
Now.
Talk to them.
They'll take everything over for you and you settle in nicely.
If you're in doubt, call them. Talk to them. They will tell you.
By the way.
Don't take my word for it.
By the way.
Talk to them directly.
Kuna watu wataumia.
Wale.
Watajipata na interest rate zao za 16%. Si tumeenda.
And you know what? If you have an existing Stanbic account right now, or you're going to open one today, you load it with 50k, you could stand a chance to win 1 million shillings.
Open account, put 50,000 shillings in it.
Yeah. You immediately enter a draw, you could win 1 million shillings. How about that?
Wow. Okay.
See, to that account of yours, you just transfer that M-Pesa and just like that.
What makes you think there's only one?
Oh, sorry. You see?
Put 50 in each account.
In each account, then you stand chances.
For as many accounts as you have.
Chances to win 1 million. For as many as you have accounts at Stanbic that you can load with 50,000 shillings. Be the poster child for winning 1 million shillings, CT. Switch to Stanbic.
Imagine this account wins 1 million this week. Next week, the other account wins 1 million.
Pesa what? Oh, tax.
What is that jet? What are those people in Abu Dhabi? How much?
What is it?
Boeing business jet. We'll take it from here to
do you
Kisumu.
have?
And we park it there.
And then we take another one to come back. Leave that one there.
Leave that one in Kisumu and take another one.
I forgot something in Kisumu. The jet is there.
Our Finance Bill Tuesday conversation continues. Our next guest is going to talk to us about SMEs and particularly the startups in the country. And this is Mercy Kimalat. She is the CEO of the Association of Startups and SMEs Enablers of Kenya. Mercy, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Happy to be here.
Very good. Yes. Good to see you here.
Same here.
That's the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Wait, smile lights up the room, man.
Cindy?
Oh, thank you. But I'm also liking the color of the mics, huh?
Cindy, it's Ednah's work.
Yeah, good work, Ednah.
You like Ednah? Yes, we do.
We do.
Yes.
Some nyama for you. Got beef?
Got beef. Eric has beef. But let's leave his beef aside for a minute. It can take us a whole day to explain that one.
Yeah.
So now Kenchik, Kenchik?
Yes.
The somersaulting chickens that we see every now and then. Yeah. So now they've decided, we've done it so well with chicken, and Kenyans like meat. That's true, actually. I've realized Kenyans like meat. So how about we transfer this same quality that we've done with chicken across board, and let's transfer it to beef. I've decided the cows in Laikipia, their names, Lucy, Matilda, let's change the name of the other one. Let's call her Gwen. There are 3 cows and they're just sitting pretty in a field somewhere in Laikipia, and they're going to be turned into product. They don't know this, but it's okay. So the product that we're talking about that Ken Beef has actually come up with, sausages, delicious, burger patties, delicious, minced meat, you can do many things with. Then there are burovos, otherwise known as
Mutura.
And there's 21 wet-aged beef. 21-day wet-aged beef comes out after those 21 days. Succulent. You can choma. You can boiro. You can do anything you want, basically, with it. But it's the same quality and it's assured. The stuff is delicious. You've got to try it. It's available in all your supermarkets. Choice ni moja, taste ni noma.
Applause.
Cindy, very good. City, please welcome Mercy with the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the Republic of Zambia. If, only if, your luck deserts you, even cold food burns.
If your luck deserts you, even cold food burns. What's your interpretation of this, Mercy?
Wow. I think it can have different meanings. For those of us who like nyama choma, that means that succulent, juicy, fatty piece will actually lose its taste, right? But I think also in the context of maybe entrepreneurship, if there's no conducive environment, then whatever you're doing will actually lack the impact that you're seeking to have. So basically, everything you're doing will burn you, right? So it's intended for good, but it ends up becoming something that will actually disadvantage you in the end. Yeah.
Good context. Good perspective. Good one to look at. What's the Association of Startups and SMEs Enablers of Kenya?
So ASEC, which is the abbreviation for Association of Startup and SME Enablers of Kenya, were founded in 2018 by different founders and leaders of innovation hubs. And what I mean by innovation hubs is that we are an outfit that really supports entrepreneurs through thinking through a business idea, helping them come up with an actual prototype that they can go and test into the market, and then also helping them in the growth stage, now looking at how to build a team, build critical mass in terms of clientele, and then also scaling their products and services across the different regions. And then also finally, the last stage is looking at scale up. So how can you attract large capital, which is venture capital, to now help you accelerate your growth, expand geographically and also increase your impact. So back in 2018, when we founded ASEC, we were around 40 hubs at that time, but the number has grown over over the years, and now we are more than 200 that are part of the ASEC network that are actually supporting entrepreneurs across the country. And we actually provide mentorship, coaching, training, and even access to markets and investments just to help the entrepreneur start their business, grow, and scale it. A part of the pillars of the association is looking at policy and advocacy, because our members are the ones who are actively doing the hand-holding for the entrepreneurs. We then become the collective voice, taking the feedback from the entrepreneurs, whether they're SMEs, MSMEs, whether it's large corporates, or even looking at how government also wants to support entrepreneurs. Then we actually collaborate together to design policies, influence or advocate for the right regulation frameworks that actually are needed for the startups and SMEs to thrive. Alongside that, we do a lot of events, just trying to build the visibility of the Kenyan startup innovation ecosystem across the world. So that way we partner with chambers of commerce around the world. We also have partners and other similar associations in Africa and also globally, just to create that route to market as well. Because Kenya really has the potential to be a destination of investment and talent. So therefore we have to continuously promote what we're doing at a global stage, but also from a local perspective.
Mercy, 200 plus hubs in Kenya.
Yeah.
Hubs.
Yes.
You know, when you think about hubs, you think about, okay, that place where these young techies are going and they're innovating and they're thinking and they're sitting somewhere and then they're being, you know, like you said, hand-holding. Yeah. You don't have an office, so you can operate from here for X number of months and then you can move on and then you can also support you in understanding financing. 200 hubs.
Yeah.
Where are they based?
So they're around, so currently we have 43 out of the 47 counties where they're based. And the idea is actually to have every county having an innovation hub whereby an entrepreneur can just walk in and access the services like what you just mentioned. But we are also facing a bit of constraints on that because they're now looking at the sustainability of these different hubs, because also each county has the mandate to make their own laws and pass them, as well as also complying with the national government policies. But the idea is to ensure that as an entrepreneur, you do not have to travel all the way to Nairobi or to Kisumu or to Mombasa, which are the main cities for innovation. You can actually get a trainer and a coach right where you are within your own county.
Are you dealing with more than innovation, tech innovation? Because you think about innovation nowadays, you're just thinking the tech startups, the guys who are creating an app for this, call it M-Ngombe, M-Kuku, M-whatever. Are you dealing with more than tech? Is there any other innovation, any other thing?
Yeah, so we have different sectors. So we're looking at agriculture as well, because agriculture is also the backbone of the economy. We have manufacturing sector, we have the green and circular economy, and also we have the waste management, which is also a big challenge within Kenya. We also have the creative economy, which actually now is really thriving. And Nakuru County is actually leading on that one. And then also we have manufacturing, the maker spaces sector, which now looking at how can we support entrepreneurs who want to build a hardware solution. So as much as we're focusing so much on ICT and tech, we also need to build the hardware on which these solutions will be sitting on. And so those are some of the different sectors that we are supporting.
Okay. We had an interview here with the American ambassador to Kenya, and she was talking about how this startup ecosystem in Kenya is thriving, that it's actually attracting the highest amount of venture capital in Africa, right? Is this true?
Yes, it is actually.
Or was she talking about, theory? What's the actual practical situation on the ground?
Yeah, so if you look at how Kenya has really grown over the years, I like going back to the genesis of it all. When we laid the sea cable in Mombasa, and that actually allowed for internet penetration to happen across the country, and then also we had the affordable smartphones at that time, the idios, if you guys remember, actually was very affordable for any entrepreneur, student to actually access it. That really catapulted our technology accessibility and also using technology to develop products and services. If you look at now the ranking, over time now, we've actually been able to attract more than $1.1 billion into the Kenyan startup ecosystem. But that has been largely attributed to foreign investment coming in. Now, that funding has been able to support diverse startups, and many of you know Copia, Sandy, MarketForce, and many others, to be able to now expand their operations and scale. But at the same time, also they're creating a lot of jobs across the entire value chain, right? So it's not only supporting their organization, but really now starting to create new business models along the value chain of where the startup is operating in, for example. The other thing that also been able to do is look at global expansion. So many of the Kenyan startups have been able to actually expand and serve more than 20 countries. So for example, I'll give is WorkPay. That's a HR platform that supports SMEs manage their payroll, and it's a free advertisement for them. But they actually are doing a really good job. They managed to fundraise, I don't know the exact amount of funding, but they were able to now expand to 20 African countries, and that also increases the number of Kenyans who are also working across Africa, which also is a good thing. But at the same time, also they're increasing the efficiency of how these SMEs are operating so that they can do much more, sell more products and services, reach as many marginalized communities as possible, and thereby expanding their impact.
What does it look like when we talk about then operations in Kenya and looking at what many would call a strained economy to do business, where unfortunately some of the businesses that you mentioned have had to fold in the last 2 to 3 years?
Exactly.
And what have been the factors that have caused that action?
I mean, if there's one thing that Kenya is known for is how we come up with unique products and services and how we scale. The challenge now comes into maturity, right? So if you're looking at how the startups that I've mentioned, like Copia, MarketForce, and many others, they actually were able to reach growth stage, attract even more capital, and now they were trying to head towards the maturity stage. But that's where now the tough economic and political environment comes in at play, whereby if you're looking at half of your profits is going to just being compliant, then when will you actually spend more money in terms of even budgeting for resilience, right? So if you look at currently like the floods that we just experienced a few months back, many of the businesses actually shut down. So one of our members, which is the IOME 254, which is part of Red Cross, they gave us statistics and said that more than 1,000 businesses have actually been wiped out, right? That means they're starting from zero.
Wiped out by
the floods.
These recent floods?
Yes, yeah.
1,000?
More than 1,000.
Okay. Literally wiped out.
Wiped out,
away.
dead, yeah.
Okay.
And they have to restart. So even right now, what we're trying to see is how can we even help SMEs and even startups start thinking about developing a resilience mechanism, whether it's a budget issue or whether it's actually building their, scaling up their, or adapting their products so they can fit these environmental hazards. And remember, like what the meteorological department is saying is that also drought is coming up. So that again is going to affect the agriculture sector. So if you're an agro processor, you cannot just sit and say, okay, I've already secured my markets in Europe, and you're aggregating avocados, so there's nothing to really worry about. You also have to start thinking about resilience. That's on disaster management. On the economic side, it's getting tougher, not only in Kenya, but even at a global level, whereby even if you look at the amount of funding that investors are trying to put in is also reducing. So what happens again when for startups are trying to fundraise, and then also looking at how also the financing mechanism is changing. One of the biggest challenges we've always had in accessing local capital, and that's actually with the banks, like Stanbic, for example, is how startups and SMEs can access it at affordable rates and at the same time conveniently. They should not be able to wait for a whole 1 month for due diligence, yet they've been a customer for more than 20 years just to access a loan to unlock maybe a container that is stuck at the port. And these are some of the challenges that our startups are facing. Now, if you look at the political angle, if the finance bill has a couple of I don't know what to call them, like disastrous effects that they want to introduce. For example, like the eco levy, right? Last year, we just hosted the Africa Climate Summit, brought in more than 14 heads of state, and really were putting Kenya as the leading frontier across Africa. Then the following year, we're introducing an eco levy tax that really is going to curtail the green and circular economy, which we're trying to promote and help it spur, right? And then the challenge also is looking at, let me just lump them up. And then the challenge is that the fact that our taxes keep changing, I think every quarter of the year. So you cannot even plan as an SME whether to prepare to do budgeting for, do you budget for taxes or do you budget for growth, right? So let me just make it super practical. If I have a conference, for example, in Berlin, and I need to go and exhibit, and then there's a new tax introduced that's going to wipe out literally the budget that I set for the marketing expo, what am I going to choose? It's a tough call, right? And so for you as a business owner, you should not be thinking about how to be compliant throughout, but also thinking about growth and management. So that's some of the things that the finance bill is bringing out as a challenge, because if we're going to start introducing new taxes over the period, then that becomes a hindrance for them to grow and also to scale.
Let's take a break. We'll continue this conversation shortly. We are discussing a Finance Bill 2024 and the proposals therein. And the Association of Startups and SME Enablers of Kenya, ASEC, has several issues to say about this bill. It's saying, come on, these proposals, the way they are, instead of helping to grow these SMEs and the micro SMEs and innovators into bigger businesses, it's actually killing them. Floods wiped them out, 1,000 of them. And then the finance bill will wipe out the rest if we don't watch out. You said one of the very active associations or members or actually sectors in the innovation space is the creative economy. Actors, actresses, storytellers creating. Some of them, and they are actually putting out a story on Showmax from the 17th of this month. It's called Gigi. Tell her about it.
It's a group of 4 young ladies, and they've come into this world and they said, you know what, life is a bit tough. They're teenagers actually, getting into young adulthood, and they're saying, life is tough. So they decide to go where? They go to look for the answers in the streets, and it leads them to a life of crime. The activator of all of this is when Jules, who would want to say is maybe the ringleader of this gang, her younger brother, brilliant chap, is accepted into a prestigious school, and she says, come on, how are we going to pay for this? We don't have money on hand, so what are we going to do? They entered into a life of crime. And so Gigi walks you through the different meandering routes that this group of 4 took, and who they ran into, and the different intrigues and stuff. It's available on Showmax come the 17th of June, and it's Africa's upgraded streaming model, where you can find all sorts of fantastic stuff like Gigi and other movies and other series and documentaries as little as 300 shillings a month. You can download the app on your App Store or Play Store, and you can also go on to www.showmax.com, register, pay, watch. Shika Showmax.
It's like that.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start.
You know that feeling where there's like a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to. But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again, and it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
Do you know why Toyota hybrid cars have that hybrid advantage? One, they have 2 sources of power, electric and petrol. Saving you on fuel? Now that's unmatched performance that saves fuel and the environment. 2, the battery doesn't need charging because they self-charge during braking. So, no need to plug in. 3, they will cost you less in service because they have less moving parts, which means less wear and tear. 4, you have peace of mind, thanks to that expert care at Toyota by CFAO Mobility. Ensuring your hybrid is always good to go. We could go on and on. But how about you just call 0800 723 222 now and test drive the Toyota Hybrid Advantage for yourself. CFAO Mobility, your preferred mobility partner.
For years, Kenchik has been your go-to for top-notch chicken. But now, we've got something new cooking up. Canned beef. Tukona beef, made from grass-fed, tender and flavorful beef. Canned beef is a perfect choice for all your beefy cravings. And to tell you just how good it is, we have Mercy, who will try it for the first time.
Hii saucy ni moto. The explosion of flavors. Where the juiciness. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted before.
She now has only one choice when it comes to beef sausages. This will be great for a power breakfast or a quick snack. What are you guys waiting for? Get Ken Beef now at all leading supermarkets, from beef sausages, beef burgers, and Boers. Ken.
The weather with Spice FM.
Partly sunny conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 26, coming down to lows of 23, actually coming down to lows of 12. It's 16 and sunny in Nakuru, highs of 24, and we'll see highs of 22 in a partly sunny Nyeri at 14. 15 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 12, and we'll see highs of 30 in a partly sunny Mombasa at 26, 27, and mostly sunny in Malindi with highs of 30. It's sunny at 22 in Kisumu with highs of 28, while Kakamega will see highs of 28, while it's sunny at 20. Kampala is sunny at 22 and Dar es Salaam is sunny at 23. And we're looking at now warmed up to 5 degrees in Johannesburg with highs of 15. We'll see lows of 4. Bright and sunny at 28 in Mogadishu, highs of 31, and Addis Ababa at 18 is sunny. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 12. Lagos is sunny at 23 with highs of 26 with highs of 30, and Kinshasa at 21, sunny going to highs of 30 and lows of 18.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Still busy on the Thika Superhighway, coming in hot to the CBD this morning, but you get to the fork in the road between Wangari Maathai and Muranga Road, and that's all right until you get to the Globe Cinema roundabout, which is dwindling. It's not so bad right now. It was crazy earlier, but all right. As coming off Limuru Road, right around Kitisuru, heading out towards Gigiri, that's where you see the most traffic, but then it'll even out until you get around to just the junction around Aga Khan. You'll be fine there. Lower Kabete towards Spring Valley, still busy as it is on Waiaki Way. Uhuru Highway, somehow then between Lusaka Road and Haile Selassie, very, very busy inbound, bumper-to-bumper traffic there. We're still in traffic hour coming through Tuesday morning. How about we speak as it may get thinner or thicker? SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So, public participation submission of memoranda to the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly on the Finance Bill concluded yesterday. And among those that presented is the Association of Startups and SMEs Enablers of Kenya, whose CEO, Mercy Kimalat, is our guest this morning. So ASEC went to the Finance Committee and he told them, OTEC. What are the issues that you're raising there?
So from us, we actually analyzed the entire finance bill. We came up with 30 clauses that were quite contentious, and we actually did a written submission to the committee, but also providing an oral submission. So I can just share a few that we actually were able to share. The first one was looking at clause 35H and J of the finance bill, which looks at the removal of zero-rated status for the e-mobility sector goods. That means that any item that has been zero-rated for electronic bikes, so the supply of electronic bicycles, the supply of solar and lithium-ion batteries, the supply of electric buses of tariff heading to 87.02. They wanted to remove the VAT exemption on that. And the idea was that last year, I think also the Electric Association also made a submission to the committee to actually provide an incentive to encourage more investors and even the consumers to uptake the electric bikes and many other facilities. But now with the introduction of that tax, that means that now we're going to see now a reduction in terms of investors who are coming in to actually invest in this still nascent sector, which is the green economy. And then also looking at how there is no local supply chain, because even that's some of the challenges that they're facing. Everything that we have has to be imported and then assembled in Kenya versus actually trying to manufacture these parts here locally. So with that kind of VAT introduction to that sector, then we're looking at a local supply chain being disrupted, and we'll be heavily importing some of these goods into the country. The other thing is also looking at the removal of the VAT exemption for the plant machinery and equipment used in the construction of a plant recycling of a plastic recycling plant. The bill proposes to standard rate plant machinery and equipment used in construction of a plastic recycling plant. Now, for us, our proposal was that they need to delete that provision, and the justification was that we need to encourage investment in the construction, manufacturing and plastic recycling. As I mentioned to you, if you look at the green and circular economy in Kenya, we've really done a lot of strides in terms of how we've innovated around the sector, and you're seeing a lot of bins even in the malls that are trying to recycle used laptops, computers, even electric equipment. But now with that introduction, then we're actually going to discourage further investment in the manufacturing sector, and more so in the plastic recycling and construction, because the cost will go up and no one is actually able to bear the cost, especially the consumer. The other one that I wanted to touch on, because there can be quite a lot, we had a joke during break about bread, where we all talking about bread, but at the end of the day we have to eat, right? And alongside the bread was looking at the introduction of the excise duty on vegetable oil. So the bill proposes to introduce excise duty on vegetable oils at a rate of 25%. Now the challenge, again going back into that, is that we're seeing a lot of SMEs and startups in the agro processing sector, but also many of them are doing what we call hustles or gigs. So if you're looking at bakers and many others, they actually rely heavily on these inputs for them to do that.
Okay.
So when that increases, then guess what? When you are trying to buy a cake, let's say for 1,500, now you'll have to buy it at double the cost, because the cost of input has gone up. And that also will affect all those other hustlers or the gig workers that are trying to make an extra living just to supplement their income as well.
Do we actually have many of those?
We have many. And if you go on Instagram, actually they're the ones who have really made Instagram and TikTok really thrive, because they have, the products and services that just bring people together. Africans love to eat. So
confectionaries and cakes and such, and supplying weddings and events and birthdays, and there are actually very many of them in this sector now.
Exactly.
So that means that all these things are going to be expensive.
Exactly. And also you've seen that even now Kenya is importing milk. So are we also going to say we're going to start importing cakes?
Where?
Because it actually might be half the cost if this bill actually goes through. So we're literally killing our own economy in terms of producing these things, which is not a good thing.
As an organization, have you ever participated in this sort of public participation in previous finance bills?
Yes, we have. So this year was our first time making an oral submission, but previous year we've been participating the past 3 years, providing written submission. And also just to say that we don't only focus on the finance bill, because that one is one of the bills that we also focus on. The other one that I want to bring in also, which is very contentious, is the ICT bill that has just refused to die. And hopefully you can invite me to come and talk about that. But that bill also is trying to curtail the ICT sector by setting up a board that is going to govern how ICT professionals do their business, or even how they develop apps and which apps are they supposed to be using. And then also there's a mandatory fee that they have to pay every year just to be part of, just to actually get a certification to operate as an IT professional.
What's wrong with that?
The challenge is that, if, for example, for me, I studied business and information technology. We were able to build apps that actually supplemented our income, right? So that also means that we cannot actually even start thinking about developing prototype apps, the Muga and the different applications. That actually will become illegal for students to do that, because the regulation has to come in.
Are you saying wholesale that regulations are bad?
No, we have to be compliant. What we're just saying is that we're still a developing country, right? So in the innovation space, we're actually around 10 years mature, but that is still young if you compare to the development economies. What we're saying is that we cannot adopt a developed economy policy framework and then bring it back to a local economy that is still growing. The beauty about Kenya and what we've been able to see in our sector is that how we've been able to adapt and to contextualize different policies, different innovations, and many other even investments in that regard. So what we're just saying is that we need to co-create together with government and the regulation bodies to find what works for us. Because if you look at Kenya, we're actually supporting the entire East Africa community.
How's that coming along, this working with government?
Well, it's a journey. Policy is a journey. It doesn't happen the change doesn't happen in 1 month or even a year, but it's something continuous, and that's why we do continuous advocacy and lobby. But currently, we do have a partnership with the Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry. We actually have an MOU signed with them, and with that, we've been able to come closer to the government in terms of working with all the government enabling agencies. For example, if you're looking at KIPI, if you're looking at KEBS, if you're also looking at KIE, that's the Kenya Industrial Estates, and also KIRDI. So KIRDI, for example, has centers across Kenya that actually entrepreneurs can walk into and actually be able to manufacture their products there. So if you're doing agro-processing, if you're doing confectionery, if you're doing baking, you can actually access that facility and use it at a subsidized cost. At the same time, also getting tech talent. So our partnership with MITI on this one, and it's a project that has been funded by World Bank, which is called the Kenya Industry Entrepreneurship Project, is looking at how can we then, one, create a conducive and enabling environment to spur up manufacturing sector, right? So previously Kenya was known for producing things, but now that has dwindled over the time. And the finance bill also is a testament of how we're going to continue deteriorating on that path. But the idea is how can we then come up with the right investment mechanism that we can also tap into the different funds that the government has provided, whether it's Hustler Fund, whether it's a Women Fund, or the Youth Fund, and many others, and also looking at how can we provide direct capital as a government to the startups and the SMEs, but also alongside funding the people that are supporting the startups and the SMEs. And that's what we call the innovation hubs, right? Because the innovation hubs have always been a silent, I like to call them the silent engine, powering up the Kenyan economy. Because when you see an entrepreneur thrive, just know that they actually received mentorship and coaching, or even a subsidized co-working space for them to operate on. And therefore, we also need them to be recognized, and that is why ASEC even was also formed to lobby for their interest, to say that we can actually partner, for example, with the county government, provide the county enterprise program and deliver it within the county spaces or facility to ensure that youth, women, and even other emerging entrepreneurs have access to these opportunities.
So these subsidies you speak of, who provides them?
For our end, now the challenge with the work that we do is that we're heavily focused on impact versus profit. Thereby, we actually bring in different partners, such as development partners. So, for example, like World Bank is also funding the government now to support us in providing this kind of capacity building support to the entrepreneur support organizations, but also to the SMEs and startups.
So the government does help?
No, it does. It does. The government also is listening. And we can actually see how even in the previous finance bill, for the clauses that we actually petitioned, they were actually removed. Some remained. So you can't win everything, but you can at least win 50% of the battle. So
something that you said, 43 of 47 counties have hubs. The other 4, why?
Well, it's more of looking at the local county environment and also looking at the investment to set up there. So if you're looking at so some of the work that we do as an association is that we find there's some counties that have a very low entrepreneurial culture. Therefore, there's more groundwork that needs to be done. So if you're going to a county and you find maybe most of the entrepreneurs are actually relocated to Nairobi or Nakuru or Eldoret or Kisii and other counties, then you find that other counties do not have any entrepreneur operating within that county. So what we try to do now for the 4 remaining counties is looking at how can we then support them in terms of, one, building that entrepreneurial culture. So we do that either through research that we conducted, for example, in Western Kenya, where we assess the business and policy, regulation, environment. We also ask investors, why would you not consider going into those counties and scouting for opportunities as well? And investors doesn't have to be only banks or individuals. It can also be corporations who want to set up there to begin to tap into the local resources in that county. So we are still in that discussion, seeing how can we, one, create a value proposition to our own members to also set up in those counties, and then also to attract more entrepreneurs to scale their products and services into those counties. But for that to work, we need to have an enabling framework for the startups and SMEs to operate in, and also even incentives for the entrepreneur support organizations or the innovation hubs to come in and provide subsidized training and coaching to support more entrepreneurs to come up. So it's more like a systemic kind of issue, but also looking at how the uptake and interest is as well.
Mercy, as you paint this picture, I'm just looking at, because here we are talking about where we are currently in the season where, Thursday's coming, whatever is going to be adopted will be adopted. So on one hand, we see that an environment has been created, like you talk about, for the fostering of, conducive environment for SMEs to thrive, right? Yeah. You talk about Kirdi and the fantastic work that they do. And, maybe then access to subsidized rates and things like this. But then that's on one hand. But on the other hand, we see it's almost as though it is a targeted effort to make sure that these same organizations that you support, on one hand, it's like you're almost making sure that they die. How then can a balance be created when on one hand it's fantastic to see, entrepreneurs, agribusiness innovators, things like that. And then on the other hand, what you breathe and it's taxed. It's looking like, that's what it's looking like. So then how do we reconcile with all of this at the same time? How do you then continue putting one step in front of the other? What do you do?
Well, it's a tough one, right? And that's why we call for collaboration amongst the different stakeholders and different associations also to come together to have one voice, because it is our own country, right? So we need to remain patriotic in that regard. So yes, the government has done fantastic work, like I mentioned to you, laying the critical infrastructure that has supported Kenya really spiral in terms of, or even leapfrog on technological revolution. But then also, if you're looking at even the current finance bill, this is a case in point. They want to they actually want to increase the tax from 1.5% to 6% on the digital service tax, and then now rename it to SEP, So what does that mean? So even us being here on studio and recording and sharing this live on Facebook and in many other platforms, that will also be affected, because now Facebook will have to increase the cost back to the consumer in terms of accessing this content online and digitally. So what we're just trying to do is, one, create and provide data-driven evidence back to the government and say, I know you're trying to raise taxes and we completely understand. The Eurobond is coming, we have to pay it. We get it. Even SMEs also have loans, so they also have to restructure, right? But the idea is that, can we come up with a framework whereby we can still continue supporting these SMEs and startups to thrive as we figure out how we can restructure the different existing policies so that we can actually increase more income to the government so that they can facilitate investments or infrastructure. Now, the other bigger challenge that we're seeing as the non-for-profit sector or even private sector is that even as we are doing the budgeting process and even coming up with a finance bill, we're not addressing the systemic issue of how money is being leaked, right? So we're busy here collecting different taxes, introducing new VAT taxes, increasing them, which in a way makes a logical sense because maybe perhaps the economy is growing, quote unquote, but we're not seeing on the other end is what is happening to all this revenue that is being generated, right? So KRA will go and say they've been able to collect X amount of billions, but Kenyans do not actually get a report back and say this amount went to this ministry and this is what happened, and actually showing the actual projects on the ground of what happened. Because now then us as private sector would actually be able to come in and actually do an impact assessment of the government projects and funds and say, actually, all the funding and the taxes that we have been paying, they actually are contributing back to the Kenyan economy. So we are lacking in terms of accountability on the expenditure and allocation of all these funds down to the common mwananchi, and even more so to the businesses that are actually working so hard to be able to generate the income. But the challenge is that all the income that they're generating is going back into compliance.
You don't see where it's going. You don't see where the money is going to be spent. But this is available, Mercy. This is information that's available.
No, the data is there, of course, on the website. But on the actual ground, it becomes a challenge. And then remember also, we've had so many cases of corruption and money, being diverted to other uses. Where is it actually going? Because I don't. The one thing that we also say in the entrepreneurship sector, you must be compliant, because even for you to attract investment, you must show how you're registered, even your audited accounts and everything. So that one is necessary. You must pay taxes.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah.
You are an adult Kenyan who's clearly lived here for many years, and it is clear to me that you eat ugali. Are you telling me you don't know where the money goes?
It's the accountability, actually. No, so, yeah. The allocations are done.
We all know where the money goes.
Oh, I don't want to say anything
Can you account for it?
No. You see, that's the whole point. Accounting for it means you keep insisting it has gone to where we clearly know it didn't go. That is the accounting that we get. The issue isn't do we know. The issue is what are we doing about it. Because we do know. Because we always say we don't know. We do know where the money goes. We even know the individuals who are responsible for that money going where it has gone. We know. Okay? It is not a secret. The emperor is walking naked. And here we are pretending that the emperor has clothes. So the conversation about where the money goes, in my opinion, should change. We know where the money goes. What are we going to do about it? So long as we keep saying we don't know where the money goes, then that narrative more or less just begins and ends right there. We don't know where the money goes. We do know where it goes.
And the money keeps going.
Yes, and it keeps going. And we know where it keeps going to. Okay? Like now we are repairing roads. Okay? Some roads will be repaired. Some will not be repaired. There'll be a budget, and it's in the billions. It always is in the billions.
Tens of billions.
Thank you so much, Eric. Yes, for that element of accuracy. Yes. And we will look at the road, look at the repairs, and we'll ask, Aish, this doesn't quite relate with that money. And we'll be saying, well, where did the money go? We know exactly where it has gone. Please continue.
What would you have us do, CT?
Let's have a little more honest conversation. You, Eric, more than anybody else has on this show said, so often can we have just an honest conversation about these matters. An honest conversation as in, look, folks, someone is taking our money. Some people are taking our money. So, money is an inanimate object. It doesn't walk. It has to be taken. For it to move, it has to move with somebody. Somebody has to make sure that it moves. So what do we do about it? The honest conversation is, right, we've figured this out. We've understood. Now, what do we do? That's the honest conversation. And what can we do? What are we able to do? And are we willing to do it? Yeah, that's an honest conversation.
So it's about tightening our oversight.
Yes, because
those controls.
Those we gave the delegated authority to represent us have let us down considerably and consistently. So we don't need to pretend that we know we know exactly how they think. We know what they're going to do. So let's take back the authority that is actually ours. We gave it to them. We can take it back, and in taking it back, we can say, guys, we know we gave you this job. Clearly, it's a little beyond your capacity. So why don't we, who gave you the job, do what we know what needs to be done?
And just adding on to that, and that's why for example, associations are formed, right?
Yes.
So how can you ensure that every common mwananchi has the voice represented? So one thing as ASEC that we constantly do, we try to demystify policy, because policy can be very lengthy. Even if you listen to the different conversations that they're having, the policy documents that are almost 6,000 pages. As a common mwananchi, are you going to spend time reading 6,000 pages and it's in legalese and you can't even understand it and interpret? So as ASEC, what we try to do is we host public participation forums, whereby now we bring in the community, we bring in the startups and SMEs. We also have our members who are the entrepreneur support organizations and innovation hubs. And then also we bring in government, right, to actually help us understand what are some of the priority areas that they have marked for, and also the budgets that they actually have allocated. I'll give an example. For example, if you look at the Women Fund and the Youth Fund, they're also saying that they are not like many youth and women are not tapping into those funds that are available, because of lack of awareness. So information flow is becoming limited. So by having those kind of forums, then as a community or as a citizen of the country, you need to participate and also have your voice there. The other thing also is about going back to civic duty, right? So many of us did vote. For me, I voted, right? So I take accountability for the government that I chose. But the idea is now, how then do we ensure that we actually correct the situation that is not going well? And that's why, as an association, we write documents. So one thing I'll tell you about government is that they do listen, but there's a way that you also have to follow in terms of procedure so that they can follow through. By having written communication that can be logged in their system, then you actually have participated in giving your voice in that regard. But there's a lot that needs to be done in that regard. But still, I'd always encourage, let's continue using our voice, because that is something that we do have as a citizen in the country, or even as an SME or as a startup. Join the relevant network like ASEC and ensure that your voice is counted when they are making the policies that will lock you, not only for the 1 year, but even for years to come as well.
Do you think what you presented before Parliament will be taken into account?
They were receptive because the committee is a representation of the entire Parliament. They were receptive to it. We did write the actual rephrasement of the clauses that we thought were quite disastrous. We did give recommendations, such as, for example, you should not charge an SME 2 million Kenya shillings every month just because they're not registered on e-Teams. We gave them a fair an affordable penalty that an SME should be able to pay for, around 20,000 or 20,000 or 10,000, because we understand where the SMEs are coming from. We know how much money in terms of profit they're making, and it doesn't even hit more than 500,000 Kenya shillings. So asking them to pay 2 million, and they still have to pay school fees, and they have other lives that they have to live, then it becomes a bit of a challenge.
Mercy, thank you very much for joining us today. Mercy Kimalat is the CEO of the Association of Startups and SMEs Enablers of Kenya. It's 9 a.m. Time for the news.
Up your life.
The news at the top of the hour on Vibes Radio.
Good morning, this is the News Wire. I'm Umbaga. Kilifi members of the County Assembly have adjourned House business until one of their own who was arrested is released. The county leaders, led by Ganze Ward MCA Karisa Ngirina and his Mariakani Ward counterpart Martha Koki, said that their Shimolatewa colleague Harun Tete was arrested by police last Friday, and efforts to have him released have been futile. According to police reports, Tete is being held in connection with the death of one person who was attacked by goons during a land reclamation exercise in Mutwapa in March this year. Driver to Kilifi North MP Owen Baya is fighting for his life after he was involved in an accident in the Okoh area along the Kilifi-Malindi highway. Omar Care was driving to pick up the MP at the Malindi airport when the accident occurred. Kilifi North Sub-County Police Commander Kenneth Minor confirmed the incident, saying that the MP's driver rammed into a lorry that was heading in the same direction. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki has been rated as the most hardworking minister by an Infotruck report. According to the company's chief researcher John Vine Wanyigo, President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua have received a D grade in their performance. In addition, the report has shown that Agriculture CS Mithika Linturi has emerged last by getting an E grade, followed by Energy CS Davis Chirchir.
Our president has a mean rating of 46%, and that is a D plus. If you compare it with what we released early in April, there's a slight drop of what he had last time. Of course, the deputy president also has a mean score of D, but of course with a 4% difference between him and his boss.
And residents of the Pombotanut Ward Township in Bungoma County have raised concern over the poor condition of the roads in the area, asking their leader to fulfill his promise and repair the road. According to them, a number of accidents have been experienced in the area due to the poor road conditions.
Sisi kama mama wa hii area tunaumia sana. Juzi mama alichukuliwa hapa anaenda kuzaa. Alizalia kwa barabara. Sababu hakuna vile gari itapita kienda hospitali.
Na hata Jeremia pia ofisi yako tutaifunga ndio ujue kwamba sisi ndio tulikuchagua, haukujichagua wewe kujiweka pale penye huko. Kila budget tunaambiwa budget imewekwa, watu wameweka pesa kwa mifuko. Contractors wahusika na MCM wahusika ambao wana pocket pesa ya hii barabara kwa mifuko, siku zao zimeisha.
Now the residents have vowed to continue the protests until the road is repaired, further blaming their ward representative Jeremiah Koloba over the state of their roads. Bungoma County government has been urged to speed up the repair of the road, as the residents continue to say that it has become difficult for them to run their daily activities.
Kama kweli hii ni mwezi wa 6 na wanaenda kufanya budget. Saa hii budget nyingine na budget ilipita pesa ilitolewa. Ilienda wapi?
Na kitu ambayo inafanya barabara inakuwa mbovu, MCA ambaye tulichagua si mtu wa kujali maslahi ya wananchi wa chini. Huyo MCA kazi yake ni ukora mingi. Hata kusikia na muadhini wala mtega maji. Sisi tunataka ni barabara. Na ndizi tumepanda na vile tunazidi kupanda.
The Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority will be holding a public auction on June 21st. The auction will take place at their premises at Eagle Africa Centre, Longonot Road, Upper Hill, Nairobi. According to a notice, they state that the authority is looking to sell laptops, cameras, phones and tyres, among other items. And detectives are investigating the death of a senior National Youth Service officer who had gone missing for 4 days in Nairobi. The body of Chief Inspector Julius Tenui of NYS headquarters along Thika Road was found in his house long after he had gone missing. Tenui had not been seen since June 6th up to June 10th when the body was discovered. His family and friends were looking for him until Monday when the body was recovered by police officers. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice. When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room the only way to start your day. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, coming through to just after 9 o'clock, and traffic not so bad in the city. Uhuru Highway, however, as you come off of Nyeri Stadium at the roundabout, is very busy heading into the city, and then you come to that junction with Haile Selassie, and then it's even busier. Also very busy on Gong Road this morning. It started from Naivasha Road and that junction, then leading in, still with some traffic this morning. Still very busy along Survey on the Thika Superhighway, as well as Kangunda Road. It just keeps giving, man. Traffic still then trying to touch on Outer Ring. It's going to be slow for a while. On Limuru Road, still continues with traffic coming in all the way up there from Kitisiru out towards the junction with Wangari Maathai. So that's going to be there for some time from what we can see. So let's keep our wits about, see what happens. The Eastern Bypass coming through towards Cabanas North Airport Road is not a problem at all. Just a little bit of that at your junctions as well. Keeping an eye on things. Let's see in about half an hour when we come out of traffic what it looks like. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
8 minutes after 9. City, you have an account with Stanbic Bank, right? 2 accounts. So they're saying if you put 50,000 shillings today into each of those accounts, you stand 2 chances.
I have to kickstart them again. They've been dormant for a while.
50,000 shillings is sufficient to kickstart
them adequately. Yes.
Sufficient kickstarting. 2 chances of winning how much?
1 million shillings.
Do you want to borrow 100,000 shillings from me?
This is how business happens.
I'm a loan shark. You see, yes. I charge 20% interest per month.
Yes,
you know.
Per month.
I think I'd like to offer a counter proposal.
Okay.
Why don't you keep the 20% and give me the 100,000?
Or you can promise.
Yes.
Should you win 1 million?
Yes.
Then you will pay.
Yes.
At an interest. But if you don't win 1 million, you will just return the principal.
Yes.
How does that work?
Mind you, I'm not a man who has that amount of money loose. So it would be very. If I wanted to give you that loan of 100,000, I'd have to go and rob it from someone else. So, I think we'd better. Let me withdraw that offer.
I don't think CT minds where you get the money from.
That's not his problem.
Not particularly.
He just wants the money.
Yes.
Because he has 2 accounts at Stanbic Bank, and Stanbic are saying that if you deposit 50,000 shillings into an account, if you have an existing account, put 50,000 shillings. If you open an account, put 50,000 shillings. If you, start directing your salary into this account, 1 million shillings, you stand a chance of winning 1 million shillings.
Well, the amazing
thing... Where you get the 50,000 shillings, that's not the conversation.
Yeah. No, but the amazing thing is, that as we've read in the media recently, more and more people are transacting in cash. And one of the reasons why is because, you want to keep away from KRA and spying eyes and maybe the CIA as well, just to see how much illegal money is going through the system. It's all, we've got to keep that very much in mind.
That's a good one, Dr. McPhee. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here again.
Well, I'm in a real situation here with Ndu, okay, because I always... since we met last, I always have been singing a song. It was very, very popular when I was a young man, okay? How do you do what you do to me? If only I knew. And I don't know if you rhyme with that, but do and do is very close together. You see.
This is true.
You do what you do to me.
Do.
If I only knew.
Which group sang that song?
I can't remember. I'm not a man into music these days.
Yes.
But I remember, you will remember it as well.
That's what I'm trying to think about it. I'm trying to figure out that, was it the Rolling Stones? Or was it Jim Reeves?
I'm not too sure,
No.
I'm not a big music fan. I know
How
that.
do you do what you do?
I do.
That's a good one. Dr. Mokfi, you know Kenchik?
Yes, I do.
All right. So Kenchik has now also introduced a new line of business called Ken Beef by Kenchik. Guess what they're dealing with? They're dealing in
Donkeys?
Close. Try again.
Cattle?
Yeah. Well done. Ken Beef by Kenchik. So now they have beef. They've got beef. And what kind of beef? So they've got premium steak, wet aged for 21 days. And then they also have their differentiated products. They have bacon. They have burger patties. They've got mincemeat. They have boerewors. What else have I?
Sausages.
Sausages. Beef sausages by Ken Beef. So next time you walk into a supermarket and you're going through the meat section and you see Ken Beef and you wonder who on earth is trying to mimic Kenchik. No, they're not mimicking. It's actually Ken Beef by Kenchik.
Well, the history of Kenchik is a very, very interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I used to play rugby in the 1960s, it's a long time ago. I know that's before Ndu was born, actually. But anyway, there was a man who was, he used to play I played Kenya Harlequins. In fact, I was the captain of Kenya Harlequins in 1970, amazingly. But anyway, the thing is that at that time, BAT realized, look, this thing of tobacco consumption is going to go down in the world, okay? And in fact, in the year 2019, that was the first year in which consumption actually started dropping. And so they're dealing in a market which, it's still a very vibrant market in Kenya. And you've got to remember that BAT in Kenya is manufacturing for the whole of East and Central Africa, really, But anyway, they realized many years ago, look, tobacco is going to be used less and less. This is a real problem for farmers in Malawi, in fact. But anyway, the situation was that they said, okay, let's go into the production of chickens. And we'll go into, and they set up Kenchik at that time. And it was down, if you remember, if you go down to Athi Rivers on the left-hand side there.
Yep.
But they then got hit by some kind of flu or something that, really messed the
it's wiped out.
No, it was wiped out. You remember, in fact. And so, in fact, instead of this being an alternative to tobacco, it became an anchor around their necks. And so they decided actually to get out of it. But I know you'll be amazed actually that Car in General, they have a subsidiary in at Arusha or Moshi, somewhere there, and that produces, it's a very, very profitable business. And it's high risk because you get one of these bird flu, and in fact it's going to be introduced in the world this year because the World Health Organization wants us all to die, and so they're going to actually introduce some kind of flu into the chickens, and so we got to be on the lookout. We don't want any chickens to come from the US because if they start coming in, all of our chickens in Kenya, especially those people in Western Province, are going to start dying of starvation, you see. But anyway, Kenchik now is a successful company. They've managed to contain that. But I say, you wouldn't realize Car in General, you'd think, Car in General is in pikis and cars and all the rest of it. But it's actually very big in chickens. But that's in northern Tanzania. And they managed to control the disease there. And, that's the big thing in chickens. But it's a very, very big market here in Kenya. But it's interesting that they're going into beef as well. I was speaking to a friend of mine recently, and he was flying up to Mandera, I think. and there was a Chinese man behind him, and he said, this fellow was talking on the phone to someone. He's saying, look, there's a lot of donkeys up here. That's why I started talking about donkeys, because, they're being exported, to China, and we better start growing donkeys. Donkeys is big business.
It's actually big
China,
business. Oh, yeah. In fact, just because of licensing those abattoirs, we have reduced our donkey population. But that's conversation for another day. City.
Yes.
Why don't you welcome Dr. Jim McPhee with the day's proverb?
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the Republic of Zambia.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now listen carefully. This is an interesting proverb because I will ask you what you think it means. If your luck deserts you, we're assuming that you had luck to begin with. If your luck deserts you, even cold food burns.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I have so many friends who have to eat their food hot. And if the food is on the table and it's gone cold, they go over to the microwave. Okay, not the microphone, okay, that I have before me here. This is not producing any heat, I'm afraid. But the microwave, and they'll then heat it up, you see. But, I must say, I eat all my food cold. And it makes you really free of everything, you see, because, you can have your, let's suppose I don't eat beef, unfortunately, because I suffer from gout. And I'm nursing a wound that I hit me on the 6th of January this year, but I've actually got through it now. It's on my foot. I got a uric acid ulcer there because I was eating they're very small, it's not omena, okay, very small fish. It's called anchovies. But they're very, very rich in purines, which produces uric acid. And I was eating these things merrily, not knowing that it was
it was going to affect you for 6 months.
But, the only thing is, when you tell me that, first of all, I have an incredible admiration for Zambia. Number one, okay, because it's the only country in the world, actually, which claims to be officially Christian. Okay, and that's a hell of a big thing for me, okay? But anyway, the reason why I say that, in 2010, it was the year in which we voted on our constitution.
2010.
Which was 2010.
Yep.
I couldn't vote because, in fact, I was going down to address the members of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Zambia. And they're serious people. They go down, their Mombasa is Livingston, beside the Victoria Falls. I know you call it the Museo Chumwa or something.
Museo Tuma.
Museo Tuma.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the water that smokes or something of that nature. But anyway, the position there is, we started off with a full house, and, after lunch, there was still a full house.
Wow.
Now, why I say that is that, I was at a World Bank meeting, a week ago, 6 days ago. And at the beginning of the meeting, we were a full house. After breakfast is finished, watu wanaenda tu, So by the time I had to say something, I was saying it almost to an empty hall, So this is, the Kenyan tradition is you go, alafu mekula, then
you register, you eat, and then you go and deal with other issues, emerging issues.
Yeah.
Dr. McPhee, we are at the tail end of the budget-making process. Of course, now Parliament is dealing with various issues. There was a news article yesterday that was quoting a report by the Auditor General, Nancy Gadongo, who says that the revenue-raising proposals by the national government are unrealistic.
Well, she's right. She's right.
She's right?
I worked beside Nancy once, and my goodness, if there's many people who have really impressed me, okay? I was with a lady from South Africa yesterday, okay, and she's in charge of Caseware. It's software that you use in accounting. And then I have my, past student, Annie Waiveredo Mugumo, who works at Farmer's Choice. And, there are a lot of people who impress me, okay? And Stephanie Mwangi, who now is working in Bermuda. At the beginning of next month, on the 1st of July next month, she's going to be promoted to become a manager in KPMG in Bermuda. So, but, you know, I'm impressed by a lot of people. But Nancy, I tell you, is one clever, hard-working person. And we once worked together. This is when she was in charge of training in the Office of the Auditor General. And my goodness, you know, she really impressed me. She's a woman whose word is worth its weight in gold. Now, I know you don't measure, you know, I know I can see you looking at me as if I'm some Bumbafuapa, you know, but, you know, these words don't measure, they don't weigh at all.
Terry, this is me listening to you keenly.
Oh, I see. Yes. You know, I thought you were saying, who you? Nasema kitu gani hapa?
No, but I will let you finish, then I'll come to that conclusion.
But yes. No, the only thing is, I remember I was in some kind of a seminar, a meeting, a congress, I don't know what it was, but I mentioned, look, you know, the GDP grows, last year grew in Kenya by 5.6%, okay? And so now the GDP grows. If it grows by 5.6%, theoretically, there is 5.6% more money available. Now, the Kenya Revenue Authority is then given a target of 12% by government. Now, where do you get the extra money from? You know, if the economy has grown by 5.6%, okay, the amount of money has grown by 5.6%. So if you now say we want 12% more, you've got to start taxing a whole lot of things. And you know, one of the things that we just don't realize in Kenya is we've got to live within our means. And you know, that's not only the government, mind you, it's principally the government, because you know, I've always thought about this thing of leading by example. And you know, when I think about that, you know, that saying, you will lead by example always. Always. What do I mean by that? The managing director of Nyaga Stockbrokers, we're going now back 18 years, okay? But the managing director of Nyaga Stockbrokers, what he would do is he would come into the firm in the morning. He'd say, look, I've seen a cyber cafe down the road that I want to buy. There's a piece of land I want to buy. I know this from my past students. They're everywhere. And you see, you know, I haven't told you, but I'm a CIA asset. I'm joking, actually. That's the last thing I want to be on earth, okay? Because, you know, that's a country I just don't believe in any longer. And, you know, I just don't understand how they got their wealth. But anyway, the situation here, okay, is he would come in. Now, how do they get that money? They would get that money by selling the shares of their clients. And that happened to a past student of mine. He was working at that time down, I think he's now working in Kabul in Afghanistan for the World Organization of Credit Unions. But anyway, in this case here, he was working for Matiba down at Mlolongo. So he had to drive into the nation, say, look, you sold my 1,000 shares in East African breweries. I didn't tell you to do so. Why are you doing this? Now, they wanted the money. So, in fact, it was 2,000 shares. So, in this case here, sorry, sir, that was a computer error. We'll fix it. And they fixed it. It happened. That was February 2006. In September, it occurred again. And again, he had to drive from Lolongo. It wasn't so bad, the traffic in those days as it is now, but he had to come right into the central business district to actually right the situation. Now, the leader of Nyaga Stockbrokers stole between 800 million and 1,300 million shillings of Kenyans' money. Now, what's the effect on the whole of the firm? A secretary owns a block of flats up at Dagoretti Corner. The messenger was driving a car. So, you see, this happens, you know, you always will lead by example. So if you're a crook, everybody below you is a crook. And you see, this, you know, I've said it before here, okay? You know, we've got to change the culture of Kenya. I give my master's students some work to do in my class a week ago, and they use ChatGPT. So the situation all we want is ile karatasi, as Jomo Kenyatta used to say, ile karatasi ne to a degree. Okay? So that's all we want. So, people say, the universities, you're going to learn so much there. And I know Professor Ngumi at the University of Nairobi, and I know other people as well. We are joking half the time.
So when Dr. Gathungu says that it's unrealistic,
she's
to
absolutely
expect
right
to raise this much.
Yeah, she's absolutely
What's
right.
unrealistic about it?
It's unrealistic because, it's rather like if you ask me, look, am I going to run in the marathon, in the Olympics? I could say, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I'll prove to you. I can't even run at the moment. I used to play rugby. You get injured in rugby, you pay the price later. Okay? So the position is, it's unrealistic for me to say, look, suppose you challenge me. Look, McPhee, I challenge you. Walk back to Nairobi from here. Now, it's unrealistic to give me that. Why? Because I can't do it. And you see, the problem
But how can CT tell that you can't do it?
Well, in this case here, he knows me and I know him. We know one another, okay? And he knows, look, this fellow McPhee, the way he came in this morning, he was limping a bit, so I can't do it. By the time I get half there, I'll actually be, limping even worse, okay? It's just that my right knee, I had a rugby injury many years ago, 1971 in fact, but I have to pay the price now, okay? So it's unrealistic. Why? Because she knows the capacity of the economy to extract that income. Okay? Now, you see, one of the things that we got to understand, we achieved something last year. Our exports last year were more than 1 trillion shillings for the first time ever. But you see, you've got to keep in mind, let's suppose my exports are $1 million. If the rate of exchange is 130 to the dollar, that'll be 130 million shillings. If it's 160 to the dollar, my exports then will be 160 million. So you've got to remember that our exports went up from about 849 billion to 1 trillion and 47 million. I've got the numbers here, okay? But anyway, in this case here, how much of that was purely due to the depreciation of the value of the Kenya shilling?
Right.
You see?
So it was an actual volume increase.
It was. Well, in some cases it was, okay? We produce... See, the problem is, in Kenya, one of the big things that we suffer from, I don't know, I use the word suffer, possibly I use that badly, okay? But, Kenyans are incredibly good at imitating, okay? I once had a student, actually, and she was wondering, what should I do as my research? And I was just driving home, and it was the days when Esther Passaris had brought up the idea of adopt a light, okay? And so anyway, I told this young lady, and I think she's now working one of the big 4 firms, okay? But I told this lady, look, why don't you do a study about how this adopt a light came into being? And so she studied it, and she said, well, how actually it came into being is that Esther Passaris had gone to Joburg. She had seen, these advertisements on street lighting. So she then brought the idea back, and thanks to her, actually, we got a whole lot of street lighting, which, in fact, just on Saturday morning when I was driving to the university, another light up in Lavington has been brought down by drunken drivers, and those fellas are really successful. They in fact,
the drivers or
the drivers.
Okay.
They know how to go after the lights.
They know how to exactly. You hit the nail on the head there, and do once again. Okay, but anyway, in this situation, Kenya, Nairobi had actually been immersed in darkness. And then Esther Passaris was responsible for bringing lights back, okay? Now, what happened? Well, first of all, this lady, she did a long study and then said, okay, well, in this case here, when you're thinking about innovation, it can also be imitation. The Chinese are very, very good at this. But mind you, now their innovation is incredible. The things that they're doing now with. But anyway, the situation here is she wrote this thesis and then she said, well, this actually was innovation. And I can't remember her name, this young lady, but I said, now look, Esther Passaris got this idea in Joburg. How is it not imitation? How is it innovation? And anyway, I think she had to change the thing and then came to the conclusion, now this is imitation, not innovation, okay? Because innovation, it's a very, very important thing. And, many Kenyans are innovating. When you look at the IT industry, the startups in IT in Nairobi and in Kenya, it's phenomenal, the number. It's just phenomenal.
So these people, Dr. McPhee, just back to the issue, if indeed the Auditor General can just look casually and see, well, looking at the performance of the economy in the last year, how much you're able to raise in revenues the last year, how much our economy grew this year, there's absolutely no way you can then have this new revenue target.
Correct.
She cannot be the only one who's seeing this.
I know.
So how do you explain it? How do you explain the people at the National Treasury, the people in planning, the people in the President's Economic Advisory Council, who would look at this and say, yeah, we can raise 2.7 trillion shillings next year?
Well, you see, one of the problems really here is that in the budget making process is, you are in fact looking at expenses. And okay, well, in this case here, you can see, well, we've got so much more in spending on salaries, etc., etc., etc. Now, the problem is, to my mind, that is the wrong way of doing things. Mm-hmm. And I was in a meeting recently, with some people, in a company, and they said, okay, we're going to grow by 30%. I said, look, you guys are being unrealistic. What you got to do is you got to cut your spending. Now, Kenyans don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear it. It's a national problem. In every company that I'm a director almost, you have people over budgeting. They're over optimistic. And I remember once, the World Bank wanted to value our old railway system. And you could see that the use of the railway was coming down, 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 down. And anyway, we went in there and the chief financial officer, a past student of mine, in fact, he said, okay, from this year on, it's going to go up, 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 up. I said, look, on what basis do you make that assumption? History tells you this thing is going down, okay? It's rather like posta, okay? Fewer and fewer people are sending letters, So the position here, okay, is, I could not persuade him that this was not going to go up. And why was it going to go up? Because if it is going up, the value of the railway to the World Bank is going to be higher. So, but, this is where we've got to be real. And to my mind, I was taken out for lunch a month ago, okay, because I don't like going to restaurants, okay, because you see, I'm a practicing Kikuyu, actually. So I've got a friend of mine who actually used that phrase once, you see, and, practicing Kikuyu is a guy who doesn't like spending money. But I'm a Scotsman, and practicing Scotsmen are rather like practicing Kikuyus. But anyway, so I was taken out to lunch. They had their son from London, okay, he's a high flyer and so on. So we were there, okay. And as we came out, there was this young lady, and she was eating crisps or something, but driving out slowly in a Porsche Cayenne. And a week ago, actually, at the World Bank meeting, I was with a lecturer, a fellow lecturer. He's now working, actually, as an economist, a very, very clever economist in the Central Bank of Kenya. And he says, I still drive a small car, even though he's now working in the Central Bank, because those people are wakubas, okay? So he says, I park beside, a V8 on my left and another, Prado on my right. And, I almost got to slink out of the car because they think, huyu ni nani? This man, In fact, a friend of mine was going to actually drive in a Vitz in the motorcade to the swearing in of our President Ruto. The president told me, he said, look, the police will stop you. I'll give you a chauffeur-driven car, you see. And that's, a friend of mine used to drive a smaller car. He's now got a Prado. So when he comes up the Mombasa Road, the police never stop him because huyu ni mkubwa bana, you know. So the position here, okay, is all of us have got to live within our means. I saw this KN. I thought, okay, what's the price of a KN in Nairobi? Well, if you get a 2020 model, okay, it's there. You can just Google it immediately now. 14.2 million shillings. Now, this young lady, this looked at her brand new car, was glistening, okay, and did she spend 14 million shillings on that? And, you know, one of our main imports last year was machinery, but machinery is cars. And, you know, in Nairobi, if you turn up at a board meeting in let's say, a WITS, you won't be a member of that board the next day. Because who are you? You know, this is
it's a serious company.
Professor, something you mentioned that I'm interested in.
City, before you do that, can we take a break?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Oh, sure. Okay,
so let's take a break. It's 23 minutes to 10. We are discussing the finance bill. Is the government's expectation to raise 2.7 trillion shillings in terms of taxes and revenue in the next financial year realistic? Or is it not? Dr. Jim McPhee, Senior Lecturer at the Strathmore University Business School, is our guest. We'll be back shortly. Ndu?
Yes.
17th of June.
Yes.
New show comes up on Showmax.
Yes.
And it's called?
Gigi.
And it's based in?
Jericho.
Very good.
Jules and her friends, there's a group of 4. Jules is the ringleader of this pack. And they've realized, you know, this life is just too hard. All the taxes that you people are bringing on us, we just can't. So they decided to take their trade to the streets and find a way to survive. Jules gets the news that her younger brother's been accepted in this prestigious school. And she says, okay, so how are we going to pay for this? And unfortunately, they get on the wrong side of things and start to get involved in crime to survive. So this show looks at the intrigues of this group of 4 young women and what they do. It's on Showmax. You need to watch it when it comes out on the 17th. We're just giving you a trailer, you know, into it to see what's going to happen. So that and other great entertainment on Showmax. It's Africa's upgraded streaming platform. And you can find out about what happens in this show and really, really get hooked for as little as 300 shillings per month. Download it on your App Store or Play Store and then pay and watch.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You know that feeling where there's like a pain at the back of your head? What? You almost want to... But what about that moment when the pain finally starts to fade away? That moment when you go back to ordinary, to being your best self again. And it feels so good.
Get effective release from strong pain with Panadol Extra. Panadol. Release starts here. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Always read label before use.
Planning an outdoor event and in need of a remarkable venue? Your search ends here. Explore the peaceful ambience of the Green Park Garden located at the Standard Group Center on Mombasa Road. Whether it's a corporate affair, a joyous birthday celebration, a dreamy wedding, or any special event, our serene ambience sets the perfect stage. Marvel at the diverse array of plants, each with its unique texture, color, and fragrance, creating an enchanting atmosphere. Don't miss out on this extraordinary opportunity. To reserve your spot in our green sanctuary, contact Greg at 0714-673547. Embrace nature's touch at Green Park Garden.
Some traffic coming in from Manyanja Road and it's touching on Jogo Road just at that junction, and the rest of it's going to go on through towards Outer Ring. Kangunda Road traffic in and outbound just as you get through towards Outer Ring as well. So folks have decided that, you know, we're finishing off traffic in not too long from now. On the Thika Superhighway, a little bit of it left as you get into the CBD, and whatever was going on Ngong Road is reducing significantly. We are coming out of traffic hour. Let's see what happens through the morning and through the day. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
Our
Nairobi.
conversation continues with Dr. Jim McPhee, Senior Lecturer at the Strathmore University Business School. City, you were asking a question before we took a break.
Yes, I was asking the question to Dr. McPhee. He mentioned that the World Bank was interested in understanding the value of the railway line. I want to understand that interest. Why?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know, because in fact, the only thing I advised this young man, I was with another consultant actually, and I advised this young man, look, this thing here is not valuable any longer. And, if you actually look at the real situation, is that it has not developed, at all. But I think, you see, also, it could be viewed as an alternative to the SGR. And, thankfully, for example, all of these floods, they haven't affected the SGR. They've actually affected our old railway line, if you remember, up in Kijabe. But I think, maybe someone had approached the World Bank and said, look, why don't you give us a loan? We can upgrade the locomotives on the old railway line. And if they're going to travel at a slower pace, they won't be derailed, etc. So I don't know. I don't know why the World Bank, but I'm always a little bit, like you, I'm a little bit suspicious always when the World Bank becomes interested in something because, you think now, which Bonham Kuba is going to come and stay in the Imperial Suite, in one of our hotels in Nairobi and say this is part of the loan, you see. So, but anyway, but I don't know, to tell you the truth.
But back to the discussion about the finance bill. You see, when you look at the infrastructure that we have in this country, that's where our railway is part. Well, our railway is part of the infrastructure. It's supposed to be one of the forces that actually drives the development of an economy.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, are we saying that the discussions around this particular current bill and the taxes that are being mentioned, that some of these taxes may afford some of the very factors of production that we have, and in so doing, it may have the complete opposite of what it is that any government policy is supposed to do, to jumpstart the economy, to inject some momentum into it, and to move it forward?
Well, you see, one of the problems really that we have in Kenya, a lot of some of my friends actually speak about the Africa Free Trade Agreement, okay, and again, unfortunately, there are so many people in the world, and it happens not only here in Kenya, but I find it especially here in Kenya, but people all over the world actually. I spend quite a lot of time listening to a fellow called Stephen Gardner, I think his name is, okay? And you realize he's an American guy who speaks, and you realize that he has a slant, okay? He has a slant, and the unfortunate thing is that when something objective occurs which is not in his line of thinking, he will not give that item any prominence whatsoever. And you see, what is our problem in Kenya? Our problem is, and this is, a very unfortunate thing, our costs of production in Kenya are very high. Now, what's the problem? If you look at projections, the projected GDP of Tanzania is quite above that in the year, that of Kenya in the year 2050. So now what we've got to do as a country is to realize, look, we've got to become more competitive. A number of years ago, a number of people in the NCPB, the National Cereals and Produce Board, set companies up and imported, Uganda had a bumper maize crop. They imported maize from Uganda. Now you buy maize at 900 shillings a bag in Uganda. Here in Kenya, a farmer will demand, they're demanding at the moment 4,000 shillings, okay, they're getting actually 3,000. But the situation is the cost of production is so much higher in Kenya than it is in Uganda. Now, if we talk about a free trade agreement for the whole of Africa, what's going to happen? I have a past student, Isaac in Juguna, okay, and he's actually in the egg business. Now, you can actually bring a crate of eggs from Uganda and sell it anywhere in Kenya cheaper than production costs in Kenya. So this is why the people in the egg business say, look, we've got to stop these imports from Uganda. He himself buys all of his raw material from Uganda, except for lime from Koru. Everything else, maize, sunflower seeds, etc., 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 all of it is bought in Uganda. I'm in the coffee business, okay? 4 coffee factories in Western have closed down. The farmers will actually get more for their raw coffee in Uganda than in Kenya. And yet, when they go and buy their petrol, when they buy their Tusker, well, you've got to get the Uganda equivalent, that when you buy your sugar, when you buy your unga, when you buy, all of those things are cheaper. And, you know, so the point here is we've got to think about how we can become more efficient, more competitive. A number of years ago, the largest foreign direct investment in Uganda came from Kenya. For the latest figures that I have, okay, because you can't get these numbers immediately, but we were the 4th largest foreign direct investor in Uganda in 2022. And the amount we invested, $7.5 billion, okay, was in fact more than 20% of the total foreign direct investment by other countries in Kenya.
In what sectors are you investing?
Well, in manufacturing. You see, this is why if we go back to 2019, in 2019, manufacturing made up 8.4% of our GDP. At one stage, it was, you know, up towards 15%. The only problem is that was a time when China was really, really very, they could produce at a very low cost, okay? Yep. And the result was that, well, you know, Firestone here went out of business. The batteries up in Nakuru went out of business, okay, ever ready. And, you know, and many, I have a past student actually who used to manufacture kitchenware. And, you know, he just could not compete with items imported from China. So he had to send his workforce home, and he then now buys kitchenware in China and then imports it. So he's just become a trader instead of a manufacturer. So manufacturing now takes 7.2%. It's 7.2% of GDP. It's down from 8.4, but it's dropped from 14. Now, as Professor Wainaina was mentioning here actually a week ago, when you look at Vietnam is in fact more and more and more, and they're above 15% of their GDP is from manufacturing. And Professor Wainaina was mentioning, you know, Samsung, which is a South Korean company, they've moved out of China because the big problem about China now is that they have got such incredible surpluses, you know, with many, many countries around the world, and they used to put all that surplus into US dollars, but now they realize, now wait a moment, you know, these Americans, they can start stealing your money. So what are they doing? They're actually getting out of dollars, okay, getting out of US treasuries and actually buying gold. But anyway, the thing is that a lot of resistance is coming up against China. So Samsung actually moved their manufacturing plant from China to Vietnam. And, you know, the Vietnamese government made it really easy to invest in that particular country. So, you know, mind you, they generate 94,000 megawatts of electricity. Our generation is capable of 3,000, but we're using about 2,200. Okay?
So, Doc, are you saying it's really easy now, essentially, to hand over what I want to call the responsibility of the economy for Kenya very easily to other countries because of a very difficult tax regime, essentially? Well,
yeah, this is what happens. You see, you know, you take the normal rate of tax in the UK. The rate of corporate tax, okay, is, well, it's dropped. Okay, it's now about 18%. Okay, But you see, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, all of these companies have their headquarters in Dublin, Ireland. And, you know, Ireland, its economy is one of the fastest growing in the European Union, okay? Germany is actually in recession. They're going down because, the price they have to pay for the gas that they're now forced to buy from the United States is 6 times what it used to be from Russia. The pipeline was blown up, okay, by let's face it, by the Americans, okay? And so the situation now is that, you know, many German companies are actually now saying, how do we solve this problem? Volkswagen has a big plant in China, but the Americans have told the Germans, now, look, you close that thing down. There's also a big pharmaceutical company in Germany which operates in China. Again, the Americans have said, you close that thing down. You got to stop trading. But the Americans themselves trade, okay? The amount they buy from China is about $380 billion a year. But anyway, so the situation here is, you're absolutely right. You see, what we're doing is we're taxing ourselves out of existence. And you see, I don't have children, so when I die in maybe even Keshu or Keshu Kutwa, but the thing is, you just put me up in Langata Road, okay, a little bit to the right there. I was asked recently. He said, "Look, hey, just tell us who you are, what you're doing, and where you're going to be in 10 years' time." And, and they pointed at me first, and they said, "Hey, we're going to begin with you." So I said, "Well, my name is Jim McPhee. I teach, at Strathmore University. It's along Langata Road, and I think in 10 years' time, I'm going to be a little bit further up Langata Road, opposite the Nairobi game park. That's where the cemetery is." So, but anyway, you see, we've got to think about the future of Kenya. I was going to tell you about the history of Haiti. The Americans will call it Haiti or whatever, but I call it Haiti because the original inhabitants of that island, actually, Christopher Columbus landed on that island, okay, Santo Domingo is called, in the year 1492. Now, the Portuguese had not even got to Cape Town by then, the Cape of Good Hope. But anyway, then what happened is it became a colony of Spain, and then the French took over the western part. And it was one of those very, very sad things, okay, because, they were dealing with slaves. But now, Haiti became independent in 1804. Less than 28 years after the United States, okay, that was, July the 4th, 1776. So less than 28 years afterwards, on the 1st of January 1804, Haiti became independent. But you see, it's a country, amazingly, that I used to follow very, very much because they had a dictator there. His name was Papa Doc Duvalier.
Yes.
You know him well.
Yes,
okay.
A very violent man.
A violent man, okay, yeah, and, used to kill people and so on. And
so did his son.
Yeah, and his son then took over from him. And the wife of the son probably could outdo anyone in Kenyan stealing, This lady just, she stole, And the thing is, the son was a completely immature man. He used to ride these pickies around State House, at high speed, and, and this was his enjoyment. But there was a coup, and, Now, that country is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Now, in the late 1700s, it produced the major part of the coffee and the sugar that was consumed in Europe. And if you remember, we were once known as a coffee-producing country. Yeah. When you actually look at our numbers for coffee, okay, the production, well, one of the figures in the economic survey is we produced 52,000 tonnes in 2022, and then it went down to 49,000 tonnes in 2023. Another number in the economic survey is that we marketed 42,000 tonnes in 2022, 32,000 tonnes in 2023. So it's down. But we used to be, we were known as a coffee-producing country. And I then think and say, well, why are we making this relationship with Haiti? And, the original inhabitants used to call the island Haiti. That's why I call it Haiti. But, of course, the Americans will say Asia. I don't know. Maybe the Americans are just interested in trying to absolve the name of the Clinton Foundation because they had raised a lot of money for Haiti and, it didn't go to the right place. Let me just mention that because, you have to remember one of these guys who was talking on, one of these podcasts in the US, he said, look, I just want to make it clear. He was talking about Hillary Clinton, okay? He said, look, I just want to make it clear, I'm not going to commit suicide, okay? But, many Epstein committed suicide, etc. But we're getting into hot water here. I can look at you. This man is looking at me and saying, who are you? This man is Mjinga Kabisa, But, Paulie, but I'm sorry I say these things, okay? Yeah, but sorry, I got off the track there a little bit. But, let me tell you a story about Jericho. There was an American lecturer in, I don't know, one of the universities here. And he was one of these preachers, And one of the students turned up and he says, now, why are you turning up? You're late for class. He said, well, I have to come from Jericho. Wow, you come from Jericho? He thought it was Jericho in Israel. So he said, oh, come in. He thought he had flown in from Jericho. But that's my little story about Jericho.
It's Jericho, the estate.
Yeah.
If you were to sit down with President Ruto today and ahead of the budget reading on Thursday, what's the one thing that you'd tell him in a minute?
In a minute, what I tell him is, look, many poor people live in Kenya. We can't have people in government and even in business, actually. If I pay myself 230 million shillings, what am I going to do with that money? Chris Kirubi is dead. We've got to ask ourselves, where is his soul now, But the thing here, okay, is let's suppose that I decide I'm going to sleep on gold sheets. Will I be more comfortable than I would be with cotton sheets? The answer is no. I wouldn't even be able to turn over, without even, So we have to cut back on government expenditure. 1.1 billion shillings is going to be used to upgrade the Deputy President's house. Now, in Strathmore University, we built the business school, the student centre, and the management science building, those three buildings, for 700 million shillings. For 700 million shillings.
Mm-hmm. Three buildings.
Three buildings. And, I'd invite you sometime, you can come and have lunch there with me, okay, and see what kind of buildings they are.
And this one building in Karen is going to cost us
1.1 billion being spent on the Deputy President's house. We have to become realistic. We have, we've got to lead by example. Judge people from what they do, not by what they say. And I realize I'm standing at the front of a class, okay? I can be the biggest hypocrite on earth. Because if I'm demanding my students to do work, and unfortunately they find it difficult, okay? But I also, if I don't do my work, I am a hypocrite. And, we got a lot of... Well, I was talking to a managing director of a company on Friday, and he said, well, that's a definition of a politician. But, we got to change. We have to change.
We have to do
If
better.
we don't change, the economy of the world is going to change Kenya, and we're going to end up like Haiti.
Dr. Jim McPhee, thank you very much for joining us. Dr. McPhee is a senior lecturer at the Strathmore University Business School. Thank you for tuning in. Kenya's Biggest Conversation resumes tomorrow morning. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m.
Tragedy after all of its occupants were found dead. The secretary to the president, Colin